Welcome back, esports fans. Gil Frost here with ZP and Hex, and we're here for day number 2, week 2 of the Overwatch Carbon series. And boy, do we have a lot of new stuff to talk about and a lot of new stuff to watch, because guess what, everyone? It's patch day. Yay! We should have gotten some celebratory, I don't know, anything, but
just something that shoots confetti into the air. That's enough.
There we go. Yeah, I was thinking kazoo, but I don't think that would gel with the microphone. So, but yeah, ready for patch day?
So I hope the teams are ready for patch day, because there's good indication that there's going to be big changes coming into the meta. We haven't seen a whole lot of Bastion in previous patches, but now we might be seeing him in every game if some of the teams and their early predictions are to be believed.
Overwatch, going back to even closed beta day 1, every time a patch came through, the meta changed entirely and nearly drastically every single time. So throw out everything you thought you knew about Overwatch. We're going to learn a lot today.
And we've talked a lot about how adaptability is important for these teams, and this is going to be a very contrasted way of seeing how these teams adapt. But before we talk about that anymore, let's take a look at some results from yesterday's matches.
Would be good for LG if they got that, but the hook! Ube just waiting, finds Shaker Leon, gonna whole hog in, nano boosted. Here we go, next find our way, Spree gonna open up here with the grab time, but the Sound Bear keeping Hammers alive.
And the shield up would have gotten them a lot more payers.
Jake going for cleanup, has taken down Lucio. Support power, far less here for the defense, and they push the cart. He's going in, this is the best play for a pulse bomb. It's gonna connect. Tac visor at the ready. Hammers falling in style.
They will try to bomb in on Icefeld. They take Icefeld down, but the combination of Jake and Route 420 in the sky is going to make it very difficult as Jake continues to run wild.
We have a fair battle in over the top. Jake versus Spray, and he hits him. And now 2 unanswered kills hill from Hammer as... Oh! Meanwhile, Jake, the barrage from behind. 3 going to fall immediately. And this, thus far, has been the Jake show. One final fight. Time is running out here. Earthshatter in from LG, or from Hammers. Knocks down 2. This LG just looking for a miracle delay here. Ube and the Tracer gonna fall. And Hammers Esports takes it over LG. And we should be heading to a tiebreaker here, Hex, because Renegades getting thrown off this point. The Roadhogs being the anti-air spawn, and no, goodbye Torque. Into the wall you go. Renegades comes in from multiple angles. Juvenile gets hooked in. Oh my goodness, goodbye Roadhog. 2 unanswered kills by Renegades as they bring this back. They're at 91%. They take this, Hex. They will take this round. Electric Cowboy on the field. But Renegades can't get back in the point. Soundbear gonna try and mitigate as Torque comes in with a flanking whole hog, and the counter graviton is successful.
He's gonna have a sleep dart to clean up Saipe right here. They're gonna stagger him, and wow, that is not how you want to wake up in the morning.
Jesus on the flank was able to get to the cart. Why? Will he escape? No, not able to stay on the cart, and as a result, compLexity gonna take Dorado here.
But they're being pressed in the castle already. Now you don't. Now you definitely do not. This fight is over. Saipe getting pretty greedy up front, leaving only 1 back on the cart. There was a grab. Did they have the follow through? They do. An ambitious Dragon Blade from Saipe.
Saipe trying to be the hero now, trying to make anything go right for Renegades here. No! This is going terrible for them. The hook comes in. The pushback is there, and it's compLexity completing the reverse sweep.
Yeah, yesterday indeed had a lot of great plays. It's going to be forever the last Carbon broadcast on the previous meta. So let's just maybe a moment of silence for that. All right, that was good enough. So moving forward. Actually, before I move forward, let's just real quickly, what were your thoughts from yesterday? I don't want to spend too much time on this, but we had Luminosity versus Hammers. If you had to give a synopsis of what we learned from that matchup, ZP, Hammers versus LG.
Hammers v LG, I mean, we saw effectively the weaknesses of LG still, where they're not very comfortable in who's playing what. We saw that Hammers is still very much a juggernaut in the scene, where they're able to play a multitude of different styles and really be adaptive. And certainly you take a look at how they ran things like, say, on Ilios on Ruin stage, where they can do things like run a Widowmaker and a Fair at the same time to get in the heads of the other team. It's pretty good.
And then over to you, Hex, for Renegades versus compLexity. Coming into this matchup, it was another 3-0 team. This time actually, 3-0? 2-0 team facing off against a 0-2 team in complexity. What did we learn from that match?
It was a must-win, and they won in a reverse sweep. One of the most amazing things in all of esports is the reverse sweep, able to bring it back. But a lot of it came down to getting much better play out of both of their tank players, who are replacements or tryouts at the very least right now. But they put down some good game film. But it would surprise me if one, if not both, end up on this roster for a longer period of time. Who knows if they'll get signed to it or anything like that. And also Torque stepping up big time on his McCree. He had some nice plays.
Well, the key thing for me there is that it was just a must-win situation for complexity. You take a look at the standings, it's a situation where now they are more in playoff contention, and it gives them a little bit of momentum rolling into tonight's matchup.
Yeah, and they're going to be facing off against Team Liquid. And let's talk a little bit about just the matches for the rest of the week. We've got 2 more tonight, some exciting games, and then we're going to have 2 more tomorrow night. So tonight, we're going to start off with Team Liquid versus complexity. And then later on, after that match, it's going to be Immortals versus Hammers. Both of them could be very good. We'll get into that a little bit later. And then tomorrow, of course, make sure you tune in for Renegades versus Luminosity and Liquid versus Immortals. But I want to talk about the first matchup of the game, and that is going to be Team Liquid versus Team Complexity. And you talked about these new tanks coming out of Complexity. We're going to see them again, and we're actually going to see a few changes from Team Liquid's lineup, as these are the 2 teams that struggled the most in week 1. So real quick, let's just go overview. Starting with Team Liquid, let's take a look at their roster coming into this one, because we've got a new player in Shatter 2K, but then he's going to be doing some damage with AZK and ID, and then of course Mezzer are going to be their tank, and Dehang and Grego actually subbing in as probably going to be playing Lucio primarily if I was a betting man in for Rafa this week. What do you think about this lineup at face value coming into this one, ZP?
So 2 things. One is I think anytime you're missing a player like Rafa, who has been trying to be the main shot caller here for Team Liquid, that's a very rough player to have to sub in for. Grego is a very good Lucio. He's been in the competitive scene for a long time, back on some very famous C9 teams earlier last year. Regardless of how good he is, mixing in with this new team is going to be a little bit difficult on short notice. Now, Shatter, on the other hand, a community favorite, very much known for having a great Genji, reasonably versatile player, and I think he's a good fit for Liquid in the sense that one thing Liquid has really been lacking is a very good projectile DPS player, and in theory, Shatter is a good pickup to try and fill that role.
I would go a step further and just question what else is he known for beyond his Genji. That's the question that I have with Shatter coming into this roster. No one doubts his Genji play, and anyone who's watched him stream has just had I think Liquid's specific website said he's a living highlight reel, and it was the most apt description of him. However, he hasn't played a whole lot of other heroes, definitely not off his stream. He played a little bit, I think, with really cool guys. He played some Roadhog, but you don't want Liquid to have another kind of Louis situation where you're wondering, can this guy play anything else? And then with the new patch coming in, yes, Genjis were very, very important previously, as recent as yesterday, but we'll see how important they're going to be moving forward.
As of yesterday, you could definitely make the case that you could run Genji basically all the time, at least if you look at how Rogue was running it with Nico, where Nico was on Genji on offense. On defense, you can make room for a Genji specialist, or at least you could as of the last patch. Now in the new patch, who knows where we might be going here tonight?
A lot of unanswered questions from the patch. But let's go ahead and talk about Team Liquid's player to watch, and it is going to be Shatter 2K for the reasons we mentioned before. And honestly, this matchup really is it's the new guys. We're seeing some of these new people, new blood coming in with maybe a little bit of experience in the past, but definitely new rosters. And it's a lot of the mixing of the old blood and the new blood, and so that's why Shatter 2K is going to be our first new kid on the block. We're going to see how he can impact this Liquid team. And honestly, if we look at their threats, AZK and ID both stepped up in big ways in their previous matches. They just weren't able to convert it to victory. And so maybe this is the push they need.
I still want to bring up a point that you brought up yesterday, and I'll let you elaborate on it, but how is he going to play well with Dehang? And it's always how are the Genjis going to work with the rest of their team as far as getting healing, knowing where their tanks are, being able to follow up on some of the ultimates that their teams are going to be laying down. Liquid still early on in this tournament looked like they were playing a little bit scattered, especially Mez didn't know exactly where his team was going to be at times. It felt like he was playing alone. You don't want the same situation with both a tank and then perhaps a Genji.
No, you certainly don't. And a key here is that if you're running something like Pharah and Genji at the same time, that's where I think Genji sometimes get into trouble because there's more of a tendency to support the Pharah. I don't know if we're going to be seeing that for Team Liquid. I feel like ID is much more at home when he's playing off-tank classes like Winston and Zarya rather than putting him on a projectile DPS class. I kind of wonder if they do run a Pharah, it might be Shatter that's playing the Pharah as opposed to ID. I don't know if Liquid has the personnel to come out and run both Pharah and Genji at the same time as we've been seeing. But again, with the new patch, you have to think that for a lot of teams, the one DPS they run might very well be Bastion.
And it's also difficult to incorporate one new player. And again, tonight, it's not going to be a permanent substitution as far as I know, but Rafa is taking care of other business, so they have a new Lucio as well. They have to play with 2 new players tonight.
Yeah, and we've given Rafa the attribute of a little bit of the glue as far as shot calling and leadership on the team, and it's hard to really say. We don't really know that, but from what we hear. And so it's going to be curious to see how they integrate a new player replacing someone who may be more than just his right clicks, left clicks, and WASD. Well, let's take a look at compLexity in that case. So first of all, their lineup, and it's going to be a little bit of a different balance here. So Torque and Nick, very much going to be carrying them whenever they can with the DPS. But then they have Decop, solid tank. I think he did play Tracer once, if I remember correctly, but don't worry about that. And then Bishu really excelled on Zarya. I actually did really like his Diva play as well yesterday. And then they've got, of course, Joe Meister and Shake. Take us through this lineup a little bit in your initial reactions there, ZP.
So you take a look at this lineup here. Of course, you have 4 players that have been with compLexity for a very long time, and now they've been filling the holes left by the departures of players like Harblu and JKW. And clearly, it felt like Decop in particular was a very, very nice upgrade to where they were at previously with their other fill-ins. It felt like Decop was consistently not only outplaying other Reinhardts and getting shields up in time to save compLexity from problems in both the games we saw last night and, of course, the Overwatch Monthly Melee, but he's also finding good moments for Earthshadow's Zone and just generally solid Rein play. We didn't see him dying first a whole lot of the time. He was able to make saves when needed, and it just gave an extra level of consistency to this compLexity team that they were very clearly missing after their immediate departures.
The note of consistency is a really strong one because this is going to be blasphemous to all his fans, but this compLexity roster might be a little stronger than they were even a month ago, despite Harblu, because the question with this compLexity roster always has been consistency. And while Harblu was consistently able to carry and get flanks on hooks, I think not knowing where he was going to be, not knowing where those are going to work, can put some undue stress on their DPS. The DPS looked more consistent last night than they have in a very long time, and perhaps it's because of the tank play. I need to see more of them before I make that statement wholeheartedly, because I love Harblu and he's a great player, but it's possible that even with the departures they've had, if these 2 tanks can stick and they play like they did last night, coming back and riding that momentum, this could be a better overall compLexity roster.
I will say that as of last patch, I might be inclined to agree with you. As of this patch, I am somewhat more questionable because a lot of the impressions from pro players is that despite Roadhog's hook going to 8 seconds, he's actually been made more powerful at the changes because of how much more powerful a scrap gun is. So I think on that and then go, this would be a really good meta to potentially have Harblu on your team. So I'm split on it in the current patch, but I do think that both Bishu and Decop did have pretty good games at times, especially yesterday.
I did say possibly. And, you know, Overwatch is a team game. The sum of your 6 is greater than any 1. They looked really good last night. I'm just really high in compLexity based on the momentum they pulled through. Like, that reverse sweep was amazing.
And I think one of the biggest strengths with their tanks, and something we've talked about quite a bit, is positioning with tanks. And we've even criticized Immortals a little bit for not being 100% sure where their tanks need to be at any given time at certain points in certain maps. And honestly, I think maybe we should talk a little bit about these Bastion changes, because my feel from these is it could potentially really change how these tanks have to interact with the rest of their team and position on these maps. And so having people that you can be confident in making some of these adjustments, especially in the tank position, could be important. But let's take a step back and look at Bastion real quick. I don't want to, we'll talk about this in game, and we're going to see a whole lot of stuff. But run us through the basic upgrades to Bastion.
Well, he got upgraded on all levels, where not only does he have a bigger clip in turret mode, it did come at a little bit at the cost of burst damage. He doesn't headshot anymore, but his clip size, 200, 300, made to let him shred through tanks. He goes in and out of turret mode quicker. When he's in turret mode, he takes 35% less damage, and to top it all off, his heal has been improved to where he can heal on the fly and be much more effective doing so. So his overall survivability is up. His ability to move in and out of turret mode to recon mode is better, and also his recon mode got buffed as well. So across the board, he got upgraded in multiple areas, and that's always a little bit dangerous because you never know quite how strong that hero is going to be when put into the wild, and a lot of players think he might be too strong. We'll have to see, though. Good gameplay will show that to be true or false relatively quickly.
The prevailing attitude on Bastion, and I'm always one that I want to see it in action first, is that the sky is falling. Everyone across the community has said this Bastion thing is going to be insane. We've seen some of the Pug play on PTR. We've seen some teams play with it, and yes, a lot of teams are running Bastion. If that'll translate to tonight, I want to see it first before I join the skies falling thing, but it's very possible that we see a lot of Bastion this evening.
And we're gonna be the maybe one of the first real scenes where you're seeing these pro teams playing on it. I think we'll have 4 matches anyway before we see anybody else because we're gonna have it tomorrow as well. The one thing I'm curious to see is if his spread change, how much of an effect that has on affecting long-range targets. But you know what? Without further ado, let's take a look, I think, at the first map. I think it's Eichenwald, looking at the lobby. But coming in... actually, sorry, it is Kings Row. I spoke too soon. But we've got Team Liquid versus Team compLexity on Kings Row. compLexity choosing this map. Why do you think compLexity picked this one for us there? Knowing that we're coming into a new meta, so there's a lot of questions.
Well, there's a lot of questions, but you still have to go to the maps you've traditionally been good on. And we've always talked about these hybrid maps being very good for compLexity as they have been able to run set plays. Now, even outside of the Sombra meta, which actually we might see more Sombra if we see more Bastion, very possible. But now knowing that their tanks are able to run the playbook, that I'll use as the term, the playbook going into these first points, these hybrid points where they're able to take first very well, I think they're still comfortable on Kings until proven otherwise.
I think at this point, it's also just trying to figure things out. And compLexity, they've been pretty good in Kings, pretty good in Hollywood. They could have brought it to either, but this is a little bit of the Wild West. Teams weren't scrimming as much on PTR as people might have thought, and it's really going to be in the trenches here tonight that we get a better idea of where things stand. Now, on that note, just a little bit of speculation. I do wonder how much Winston we might be seeing, because I feel like Winston might suffer the most under this new Bastion regime, because anytime he leaps in right into that turret, it's probably not going to end well.
Shield might not even exist at that point. It has such low health, Bastion can shred it extremely quickly.
Yeah, because they lowered the health a while ago. And that's the hard thing about Bastion, I think, right now, is resources you can expend to take care of it. And that's why we're expecting maybe to see a lot of dual Bastions, one on each side, because, just like we were talking about Pharah Mercy last night, you have a Pharah Mercy flying around trying to kill the single Pharah. You're using 2 resources to take care of one, and then on the other side, there's going to be an imbalance. And so we're going to be seeing, we could potentially see that, because you might have one Pharah shooting that Bastion. Well, if that's not working, well, what do? You dive a Genji on there? Like, what else do you provide? And then what's happening on the other side of the fight?
Well, I can already tell you immediately, Pharah shooting Bastion right now does not work at all. So I don't think we're going to be seeing that. Now, watch, we talk about all this, and then no one will run Bastion. Who knows?
Yeah, they're like the secret pact. No one knows when to run Bastion. No, I would definitely be surprised. And we don't have any Mangachu today. He's been the only one that's played Bastion with varied success. No, not good success. But it's definitely changing now.
He lived for some period of time before his push failed.
Yes.
Even though they didn't win on those pushes, you can measure Bastion success past patch and how long you stayed alive, perhaps.
Yeah, compared to any other Bastion ever who tried to stay alive. Well, it is definitely going to be different. With that 35% damage reduction, and then the healing while moving around, it definitely is a new Bastion.
We also saw a lot of nano Bastions too, so a lot of times when a hero gets a buff into the new meta, then you just use existing strategies already and say, let's make them even stronger in an unkillable Omnic.
Well, let's put it this way. If you're a fan of tanks in the more traditional sense of the word, you're probably going to be seeing some tanks tonight. But with that,
let's take a look at compLexity versus Team Liquid. Game number 1 here in week 2, day number 2 of the Overwatch Carbon series. Take it away, gents. I'm excited to watch this match.
We're going to be opening up here on Kings Row, and maybe it's fitting. The objective here on Kings Row is to bring an EMP bomb to the very end and use it to eradicate all Omnic life. And maybe that's the counter the Bastion there, Hex. The EMP goes off, and you just cannot pick him at the character select screen anymore.
Okay, that's very possible, I suppose. It's also a map that we have seen Bastion played on before, even in this tournament, as you mentioned, to very small degrees of success. those small degrees being 0 success towards the end. But he does have that area towards the end if you can camp out as spawns are coming out, and even defensively at the very last point of King's Row, you can run a Bastion there, possibly.
Well, right now, we're not really seeing much in the way of surprises here. Torque, of course, being the hit scan specialist for compLexity, and the hit scan specialist for Team Liquid being AZK. And look at what they're both queued up on here, Hex. Of course, they could change before the gates open, but right now it is looking like it will be Bastion v Bastion to open up this series.
One of the things we did not touch on patch-wise, though, is Mercy's new changes, and during Resurrection, she is now invulnerable with the rest of her team, so no longer Resurrection will be a death sentence. She'll be able to stay alive.
Well, there was a point when Bastion was run by teams like C9 on maps like Route 66. You ran it with the Mercy, so if you did succeed in killing the Bastion, what did you do? You brought the Bastion right back up to life.
Well, Bastions versus Bastions, and one shield up. They've got a defense matrix to help out the Reinhardt shield on the ground here, as they do not have high ground. Going to be interesting to see how this all shakes out. As I mentioned, throw out everything you know about Overwatch. We're going to be learning along with you folks.
And the reason why you're probably seeing the Divas here is to deal with the other team's Bastion, but AZK getting moved here on the back line, now in turret form, applying pressure to compLexity here in the point, and is going to be forcing compLexity back. Now, what we have to wonder here is where's Torque in this situation, because this is going to be turret wars right now. Both teams in a Bastion standoff here on the point, and AZK going to get thrown down a little bit more. Torque winning this robot-on-robot violence.
I mean, the question is now, if you lost your Bastion, is it such an integral part of the strategy that you just leave? But no, they're going to rotate around through Hotel and try to take out the opposing Bastion, and they've rotated all the way back to the Hotel. So yeah, it's a full-on retreat there, having lost their Bastion. Going to try to reset up here. Torque already with tank mode, though. That's how much damage he has done. No boost just yet for Shake, as we do reset here.
Both teams very committed to this Bastion strategy. Neither team trying to bury it up. And Torque going to have a nano-boosted D.Va in his face, trying to mitigate some fire here with the defensive matrix, and ends up not getting anything done. Meanwhile, Torque, tank mode up and active, moving into the point. His team, though, getting taken down by AZK in the flank, and this tank not able to get through Decop's shield. So take a look here from Team Liquid. They're getting on the point, and they should be able to take this. And it was Mezar just stopping Torque from getting things done with his ultimate.
Yeah, must be the sturdiest phone booth in all of London right there, too, as it ate a shot and did not even chip any paint off of it. But Bastion Wars will continue as we move forward here. First point taken. I wonder, ZP, if you're even going to see Bastions posted up on the payload anymore. It used to be very popular because of the low mobility, but now with this transform being lessened, it's possible we just see him doing flanks or things like that.
Well, he's a threat in recon mode now as well.
Right.
So he can be more mobile when he's moving in and around the battlefield. And as mentioned, both teams very comfortable just staying on the Bastion play right now. You take a look at Team Liquid as they're moving up. AZK has tank mode up to hang. No nano boost to go with it, but you're going to see him just drop in the turret mode here, and we'll see how compLexity engages. It does look like they're moving in, and they push AZK back. Now, here comes this counter sound barrier. AZK in the tank mode, and compLexity has to back out here. They can't deal with this little fire. Although, as I say that, they find a moment for the Graviton and will take out threes. So perhaps Team Liquid just not effective in getting kills in their window of opportunity.
Give Nicholas some credit there, too, on the D.Va, able to shut down the majority of that offensive tank ult from the Bastion. No need to move around. They are comfortable where their Bastion is up top here. Torque's going to have tank mode at the ready momentarily. Of course, even if they do go down, Mercy's going to have that resurrection going for them. Do you think the offense needs to switch anything up here? Maybe run a Mercy of their own, try to get resurrections?
I'll be honest, I'm still trying to comprehend and process here and how the flow of these fights go. This is a very different setup here. Clearly, it's based around dealing with the Bastion on each team, and it's a bit of a slog until the first Bastion dies here. Both teams trying to go for positioning here, trying to find a way in, but we are seeing is more tanks. Torque coming in, his tank mode moving in. He's going to eat the hammer instead, and Team Liquid might have an opportunity to punish him here. Torque is going to fall. Their Bastion is still up. The enemy team's Bastion is down. 3 kills, but there's Resurrection coming up. Shatter pulls out the attack visor, and it's going to be the hammer from Decop that lets compLexity push Team Liquid out of this.
Well, that was the difference of these compositions, is one team has a resurrection while the other does not. Liquid, of course, not running a Mercy at the moment. Hang's going to be on the Ana, and they do have a sub in, as that's Grego for Rafa there on the Lucio. So it's going to be interesting to see if they end up switching. That second life might be very needed. So far, I think you're seeing people save ults for tank mode Bastion.
They certainly are. But we do have a swap up here where Team Liquid no longer running the Bastion, instead going to put AZK on the Tracer. So now the question is how they're going to flank around this when you have Reinhardt and D.Va just sitting here and really going out of their way to protect Torque. It's not the easiest thing to attack. And now they're going to nano boost Torque, so he's incredibly durable and able to chew through anyone that's going through him. Winston and Mezar dies immediately. And he's just sitting very pretty here, Hex, as he lays in the turret fire.
Seems to be a very difficult nut to crack there, as they are going to be trying to get flankers on the other side. Shatter is on that Genji. He gets taken down late into this fight as they're looking for some cleanup and some late kills to stall out the next push. ID will move over to the Pharah as well. They're going to go all in on making damage a priority, a dive comp priority. Dahang does switch over to the Mercy. Mezer's going to switch over to the Winston. Perhaps this will work, but I think we're going to watch teams figure out different strategies as we go on.
Well, again, I don't think any team really spent tons of time in PTR, but next fight here underway. Graviton comes in from compLexity early on. Gonna pull in 3 members of Team Liquid, and they certainly can't dive this now. They haven't even dealt with Torque. They're down 3 people. ID gonna be lucky to leave here with his life as Nicholas and Decop get the last little bit of cleanup. And it seems like this attempt at getting through here and getting onto Bastion with that Bastion of their own thus far has not been able to crack all the defense that's being put around this Bastion.
We're watching problem solving in action here as they simply look for answers. Maybe AZK can get in there with a pulse bomb, but that might not even be enough damage to take down a Bastion with all the support he's got, with that extra damage denial in the sentry mode. But they're just going to push the cart around anyway. Maybe they can take advantage of going around different angles.
Well, here comes Torque. Nano tank underway. The tank is already strong, but throwing a nano boost, that's even better. Still, Team Liquid killed 2 in the backline. Torque was a little bit slow to reinforce, and he's going to eat the barrage from behind. It was compLexity being a little bit slow to reinforce. They do have the res, though, so the fight's not necessarily over yet, but they have lost Bastion positioning. Torque, though, chews ID out of the sky, but immediately falls. Just not enough support at that point.
Not enough support there. I think we might see a play of the game of old Mercy style where she's in the pub, resurrecting the 5 right there. That might be making a comeback as well, but in great position right now on the card. It looks like the defense not going to be set up for this. They're going to get second point.
So Team Liquid finding a way of keeping the cart moving forward. 1:40 left remaining here in this matchup. So they'll get 2-3 attempts at this, but once more, they have to find a way of dealing with Torque, who is camped up there in that corner with a whole lot of support in his corner.
It does remind me of early methods to deal with Bastion as well, that the best time to deal with him is actually when he is in tank mode, because the fire rate is low enough. You can get flankers over top of him and not able to deal with all of the threats that are going to be on him at a particular time. Right now, Mez trying to get free push on the cart as he look forward. Still have to dislodge that Bastion, though.
Mezar looking for an opportunity, and I still think the Winston pick here is potentially very risky. Winston, historically a hero that has a tough time dealing with Bastion, even pre-buff, but he's going to probably ready to go in and does create the distraction for AZK. The Pulse Bomb connects, gets the double kill, and Team Liquid perhaps have found an answer here. 6 unanswered kills. compLexity now on the verge of losing here on King's Row on the first round.
Absolutely. Just eating all of those bullets, allowing the Tracer to get in there was a beautiful strategy. He was not meant to kill. He was only meant to distract, and his health pool allows him to do that. Here comes the Dragon Blade from Shatter as he tries to get in there. He shuts down Torque immediately.
That's 3 kills there from Shatter. Make it 4, mopping up on compLexity as they were trying to come back in. Team Liquid, they're even going to have the res for the Fallen. They're going to bring this payload to the end, so interesting at the very least, where Team Liquid actually had more success on their offense not running the Bastion.
Learning on the fly here, as it is, but very nice to see in my first impressions of what I was expecting and what actually happened. The Bastionless team able to take down the Bastion team, probably a good sign early on.
Right, it wasn't completely unbreakable. You definitely have a different team fight feel, though, when Bastion is involved. Rather than things being mobile and taking place everywhere, you're effectively putting a lot of your focal point and power in one area, which is why you saw them running the Reinhardt and D.Va, trying to protect the Bastion at all costs, running a Mercy that could res him up. Although, I will say that AZK just coming in with a Pulse Bomb was still pretty effective. I think the missing piece here, not that I want to make the Bastion comp stronger, please don't flame me for saying this, but when people ran good Bastion comps in the past, they ran it with a Zarya that was able to always throw down the shield on top of it. So maybe you need to run the Bastion with the Zarya and really have the Zarya just key in and go, I'm just going to throw every shield onto you. If I've made Bastion stronger inadvertently by saying this, I apologize.
Well, it is the natural extension of the different sides of the spectrum we see, even with 4 tanks, a less mobile composition, and then you run 3 DPS against that, you're more mobile and you're using that to your advantage. This is just the natural step even further on the immobility spectrum there, where you're playing a little bit of tower defense, but definitely has its vulnerabilities, which I think is good to see. I think everyone was watching very happy that it wasn't the exact same mirror comps, Bastion v Bastion the entire time. It does give us a little hope that the sky is not indeed falling.
So again, just to bring up the Zarya point, since compLexity is running a Zarya with the Bastion here, is that if Bishu holds his shields purely for the Bastion's sake, that actually makes it even more difficult for Team Liquid to deal with, because you could commit on a dive, you could commit with a pulse bomb, but if the shield comes up on the Bastion at the same time, you're going to mitigate that, and now you're just dealing with the turret mode Bastion in your face.
Well, it looks even on the defense that Liquid has found the composition they want to run versus Bastion regardless. Not going to allow him to get set up and be comfortable and just chew through their team. I think that's the right choice. Don't let them be comfortable. Don't let them set up, throw bodies at it, and just hope for the best.
So we see compLexity coming up here through the hotel on the right. And right now, they're just trying to build the line of sight for Torque to start moving in here. Very reminiscent in kind of a sense of old school Terran v Terran with siege tanks. Is kind of what I'm feeling like right now. Of course, only one side running the Bastion in this particular case, but you get that vibe in terms of getting some position and find a way through.
Yeah, definitely the leapfrog nature. Bishu going down very early is going to hurt that Bastion survivability. As you mentioned, adding a Zarya into this composition was going to be great for them. Now just going to take the free splash damage, going to dislodge that Bastion. This push, for all intents and purposes, is over. They're going to have to reset. They do seem to be... Nope, they're off it. They're off the Bastion.
Well, we are now in a robotless world. Clearly, the EMP at the very end of King's Run last round has made it less willing to run Bastions. Who knows what might be, but that means we're going to go to something a little bit more traditional here, as Team Liquid on the defense can be pretty aggressive here, diving in the compLexity as they try and get in. Shake going to fall.
Shake goes down early to Mez, who has been very aggressive on that Winston so far. They're going to get as much damage in as possible. Of course, Shatter is going to be a big problem for them. One of the better Genjis in the game. We'll see how he does in a tournament-style atmosphere playing with this team. Nicholas takes down Grego, the other sub in for Liquid, so they're going to be down a man in this fight.
In compLexity, this is where they're starting to get onto point more dominating. It forces out the rest from Liquid, but Liquid still has to find a way back in. ID to the back line, going to drop the barrage and takes down 2 immediately. So, with that, it's not going to be enough, though, because Bishu and Nicholas got into that back line respectively. They end up picking up 4. ID got 2, but it just wasn't enough.
Not enough. Those are not the trades you can afford to make on defense, especially. That will be first point taken over here as Decop does clean up Grego late in that fight, and they want to get set up to make sure that even if they do switch into a Bastion, they're not going to be able to take that perch over, which we saw was one of the better spots for him.
Well, right now, there are no signs of a Bastion coming out on this Liquid defense here, so we'll see how this works out. One thing I do find interesting here, Hex, what do you think on the Liquid side that they have been running, at least on the last point, they were running Genji and Fair at the same time? I knew it was a possibility, I just didn't think they would come out with it and put ID on the DPS with Shatter.
It's not entirely new based on what we've seen throughout the entire series, though. So as you mentioned, you can run Genji on pretty much every composition, every point, and you can almost make the same argument for Fair lately.
Oh, Shatter right now in over the top, holding onto the Dragon Blade. He's going to get the Sound Baron, yet he's not bringing out the Blade. Doesn't like what he sees immediately, and with Mezar taking out Decop, he might not need it. Gets a dash reset towards the end, and for now, he can hold on to it, Hex.
A good sign of patience playing with the team, knowing the ult economy is going to matter. Of course, we are just looking at Shatter here, seeing how well he's going to do with the Team Liquid, who seems to have nothing but glowing things to say about him.
Well, compLexity, this is their window to break through here. 3.5 minutes. They do have time, but it would be great for them if they move in. There's a grab top by Bishu. Nicholas in over the top, and it's a great barrage. Justice falls on Team Liquid as 3 of their members die to that rocket barrage.
Not only 3 members, but importantly, they got to hang there during that kill spree. You never want to get 5 kills, then just have them all come back to life. They have the advantage here as they continue to push forward. This is Bishu pushing up, and generally kind of an old school feel to this set so far, ZP. Zarya going forward all alone on King's Road, just knowing that her damage is going to be the poke in, the graviton into barrage is something we've seen since the very closed beta, so a little bit of a throwback feel.
Well, taking on the next fight, Dehang can power up Shatter for a Nano Blade combination. Didn't use in the last fight, and here comes Shatter. Moving to the back line, trying to get things done, but instead runs into the whole hog and isn't able to get anything done. The knockback keeps him away from the compLexity back line. Here comes compLexity on the counter engage now. Sound barrier of their own, pushing back Team Liquid as they look for an extra kill to put this in over the top. And oh my goodness, that is not where you want to be. ID caught in a just dirty back alley there. And now AZK trying to bring it back.
Well, they spent a lot trying to chase him there. They spent 3 people. Now those 3 people are out of position as AZK raining death over the top takes down Shake.
And that's interesting because I think they could have gotten the kill in ID fine, but there's the Earth Shatter coming in. compLexity, it's Decomp finding a way through the payload, knocks down 2. I'm not sure it's going to be enough, though, because early reinforcements from Team Liquid are starting to stream back in.
They are going to have their tanks back in on this point. Mez is going to be there. There comes the Graviton trying to clean up the remainder of this push. Nicholas caught up over top, not cleaned up right away as Mez continues to swing. And yeah, you're right, CP. This defense is back in position to at least contest. The walk from spawn on offense very far away.
So we're seeing Team Liquid still send the payload. They use Nano Boost on to Mezar, letting Mezar clean out a little bit more space. And we'll see if this is not. Both teams basically reinforced back on the point here, and Nicholas not able to stay alive. It's taken out by a combination of AZK and Shatter. Shatter back out for a moment. Still decent HP. About to have another Dragon Blade here, Hex. So we'll see if he unleashes this here in just a moment as both teams trading out. Shatter to the back line. Gets on the Jomeister. He's going to make this a double kill. Looking for Ana right here. Backs out, but enough chaos has been done here where Team Liquid will get a full hold here on the second point.
Well, a beautiful Earth Shatter in the midst of that fight allowed Shatter to dive as deep as he did and take down the Lucio, who was on the ground. They're going to push pretty far forward, just looking for some poke. You don't want to abandon this cart too far, as we've seen some back-cap shenanigans on King's Row on occasion. They're just going to completely reset up. Now, offensively, they do have a lot of things to work with. What got them through most of the Streets phase was a grab into Barrage. Maybe that same combo comes out here.
Well, there's a Graviton from Bishu, and Nicholas is right there to follow through. 3 people dying to that Barrage Graviton combo, and it is incredibly clean. It was just a wonderful Graviton by Bishu that caught everyone off guard. And now compLexity with 2 minutes left to find a way to bring this payload to its final destination. That gives them a good, solid 4 attempts here, Hex.
They went all in on that push, as you saw that Farah also got the nano boost to keep her alive. Survivability so important in that combination. You don't want to get the Barrage off into a Graviton and die immediately. So Nicholas still trying to get some poke in as both teams try to reestablish. Here comes another ultimate.
Well, the Nano Blade going into backline. Team Liquid looking to bring us back, but no, Shatter gang, the Hammer Sleep Dart experience. It's not a good one. It caused him to die immediately, and compLexity now looking to turn up the heat here on Team Liquid. Liquid, they waste 2 ults basically for nothing there, and now they're feeling the pain. They lose everyone and take out no one.
Well, Shatter will move off of the Genji for the first time. He's going to be running the Bastion instead. It was a map that you saw Bastion in this corner a lot of times. He goes down immediately to Torque's hook.
He just got hooked out of right away. Not going to get much done. And Team Liquid, they're stuck in the spawn door. Meanwhile, the payload is moving towards its final point. They're getting effectively spawn camped here. And compLexity will finish out here on King's Row. Minute and 11 left for them.
Well, that offense generally defined by the Barrage and Graviton combination. It's what got them through Streets phase, what got them to lockout second, then the aggression never ended from there. And that was a really great closeout. One of the things that's difficult about King's Row is actually closing out the point. Because of the spawns are being very close, you generally want to save big ults for that, but they decided, let's just hang out in the doorway. They're going to have to go through our hammer if they want to get to the cart.
And why not? I mean, they won the last fight so decisively that they had the option of getting right in the spawn door. Usually when you win fights, you don't always win it that effectively. There's still people in and around, and you can't just run right up with no resistance to spawn door. Well, in that case, because they did win the last fight 6-0, they had the option of being that aggressive, and it worked out. One thing I do want to note to you, Hex, or just get your opinion on, is that it feels like when Bastion was having problems, it was having problems due to D.Va being in play. Do you think we might see a situation where teams run Bastion up until the other team goes D.Va, and then they swap off Bastion? You just have constant swapping back and forth?
It's possible. I always like that interplay where teams can't run the exact same thing all of the time. D.Va was doing okay against Bastion. I think maybe teams just aren't as comfortable with it, but thus far, the rumors of Bastion's dominance have been greatly exaggerated, as neither team will run it anymore. I think both teams wanted to try it, but maybe the comfort level just isn't there yet.
Perhaps not. Gates are going to open here for Team Liquid. They have 1 minute left to get here on the point A, and they need to make it a good one because compLexity does have 40 more seconds. So for Team Liquid, best chance of taking this is to be successful on this first push, because at max, they only get 2.
Well, ID will take to the skies with his friend to hang. This is a combination that they've liked to run ever since the very first day of Overwatch. They're trying to get something going in. So far, though, only poke, no kills coming out.
It's only poke, but they are getting better positioning. ID right now looking for rockets from behind. Would have liked him to be a little bit more aggressive there, but we'll see how it works out. Shatter moving into the back line with him, and this is Team Liquid's dive. They get 3 kills early on. It's AZK opening the way. Shatter and ID with the support from the back. And it's looking like this might be a very quick take here for Team Liquid. compLexity has just bled too many people here, X.
Well, they have to clean up this take for sure because they lost their Mercy somewhere in that fight, so no Resurrection will be available. The good thing is the Resurrection will be available on their next push. They will take this map rather easily, and you're right, that poke was doing so much damage, and eventually a giant rocket down to Lucio led AZK to clean it up.
So now we are in the overtime rush. If Team Liquid gets off the payload for any reason, it's over. But the potential here, potentially undefined. They can bring it all the way to the end, Hex. So it's up to compLexity to get a stop, preferably sooner rather than later from their perspective.
And we have seen the overtime push go all the way to the end on King's Row. It is a rarity, but it is absolutely possible. Shatter's going to be lurking around this left side, actually just making sure no one was lurking on him. Going to stay a little closer with his team, not going for the giant flank. Torque takes on AZK to start this.
AZK falling early on. This is bad news bears here for Team Liquid. Shatter gets just crunched in the corner, but there's the Resurrection. Dragon Blade should be underway. Shatter gonna be looking for Oaks, diving to the back, and doesn't immediately have great targets. In fact, can't get close to the soldier. Basically the worst spacing he could have in that situation. And as a result, compLexity, res or no res, pushing Team Liquid off of this payload. It ends right here.
But able to capture first point, so not a completely fruitless offense there as we will switch sides yet again. What do you think of the Mercy changes so far?
I think teams are clearly more willing to run Mercy. We've seen more Resurrections in the last set than we probably saw all of yesterday. So clearly teams are willing to experiment with it. And it doesn't necessarily mean that Mercy wasn't that strong last patch in respects. There's always this weird effect in online gaming where a small buff, though noticeable, just creates a different change in player mindset where the players are suddenly overhyping how big it is, and the thing was always useful to begin with. You've seen that decent amount with McCree from time to time, but it's possible that the Mercy quality of life changes really have helped and will let her be more successful.
I think the Resurrection mechanic, we'll see as it goes on, and we'll talk to professional Mercy players about it, but it's very nice that if you res 5 people, you can fight 6v6 again, rather than 5v6, because Mercy was nearly always dying during those Resurrections, so that is a quality change in my mind.
Her name is Mercy, but last patch her name might have been Martyr, just for talking about how she actually played with her Resurrection.
Top notch. Yeah, I saw something that said, heroes never die. Is Mercy not a hero? Because the moment she uttered that, boom, dead. Regardless, we have some more Bastion back on the field as AZK will line this up. This does make a little more sense knowing that you want to hold on first. This is something we could have seen last patch and it wouldn't have surprised us of you have to go all in on this defense anyway. I guess run a Bastion, but now with Bastion being stronger, it makes even more sense.
And again, note how this Bastion is being supported here. No, Hanzo, scatter arrow, simple geometry. That hasn't happened to start King's Row in a very long time, and yet that could make things very rough here for Liquid. I'll note that they're not running Azari here with the Bastion. Instead, D.Va's going to be AZK's main support, but he gets hit by the Bionade early on, has to back out a bit. But now, reestablishing, he gets slept. It's Ana just ruining AZK's day here. Shake all over him as we see compLexity getting onto this point relatively easily.
Shake will not kneel to our Omnic overlords as he has completely shut down that Bastion play. They have to back up here. They're going to probably have to fight this just before the box.
This is going to be a long time for them to have to hold this here,
Coming in.
almost a full minute, and they lose Mezar early on. Now AZK is down. This is all but over. I can't see how Team Liquid is going to get back in this point, especially when they're going reverse. Guys, the payload marker is over the other way.
Well, they know how slow the door is to open, so perhaps reforming for one last fight, but they're going to be cutting it very close, and they're going to have to go through a lot of meat on the ground to do so.
Well, AZK going to hope to get back here with the tank mode, but no, they just were too far away. They retreated way too far back, and by the time they wanted to come back in, it was too late. The payload had already gotten to its final destination.
Well, that will wrap up King's Row. compLexity taking it in what felt like a very strange match for us, but there were shades of some things we saw very long ago. Grav and a barrage, the scatter arrow out of spawn. We haven't seen that in a year.
It goes way back to the era where you had the on my word unleash hell moment where you have
Right.
6 Hanzos unleashing scatter arrows just hoping that someone gets randomly bopped.
Well, this will be the play of the game. This comes from Torque as he's running the Roadhog still. Those changes to the right click, very evident there, of course, giving up the hook cooldown in exchange for a little better primary weapon, but I think we'll see plenty of Roadhog still.
You say little better, and yet in actuality, you just already see clips of Roadhog just chunking someone from halfway across the map with his secondary fire in the scrap gun. So 20%, it might seem little, but I don't know if that's actually the case.
Well, then again, we really thought that, well, the Bastion changes were going to be a little bit different. I guess maybe I shouldn't say anything. What did we learn from just one map? This is really small sample size, but how are we feeling?
Well, I think one thing we clearly saw is that Ana is going to go absolutely nowhere because she seems to be a very key part of dealing with Bastion right now in 2 ways. One is that if you sleep dart the Bastion, it doesn't matter how much support you put around him. He's not doing anything for 5 seconds. You suddenly have a big opportunity. But more so than that is that if you land a Bionade on him, the part where he's super durable doesn't really matter as much as now he has a huge hitbox and it's hard to protect him in the period where you can't send him heals. So I think Ana's position in the meta, where people always wonder, will he hit a point where she's not going to be used as much? So long as Bastion is a factor, I think you'll always see Ana in counter compositions against him.
I'll just take a broader note and give a life lessons of be patient. Let's wait to see how it all shakes out before we make up our minds on things. There are a lot of people who have already formed very strong opinions who have not been in PTR, who have not been spectating games. I'm one who would like to wait and see how it goes. And right now, still up in the air. Verdict not quite in.
Yeah. Well, and even when we're watching the PTR, they're playing around with it. And so we saw a lot of Bastion in those games. Even then, though, it was a little mixed. You know, one Bastion usually do better. It kind of depended on the map and the location, but...
One thing that really struck out to me is that teams have to realize when you can use tank mode. It kind of reminded me of when Soldier initially got buffed and people were relearning how to play Soldier and they were just tactical visoring into Reinhardt shields. We saw a lot of that from both teams where you'd see a tank mode come out and it's just hitting a Reinhardt shield over and over again. That's probably not the best situation to use it, and you can make far better use of it. You just have to find perhaps a flank to use it, wait for the Reinhardt to die, just something a little bit more impactful, because we didn't see much in the way of gigantic tanks changing the outcome of fights to the degree that we know that Ultimate can change fights.
Yeah, and I actually wrote literally just tank mode question mark, like, because the few times we saw it, I was like, maybe not even the best move. It probably would have been more impactful for you just stay in.
It's
one
nearly
of your other modes.
always when he's the most vulnerable. When you hear the little siren, the doot, which is one of the best lines of the game, by the way, you know that you can move in with a certain amount of heroes who can get behind him. If you can dodge a shot, you're fine. Yes, he one-shots you, but the fire rate is so much lower that you don't have to worry about just spinning around and getting caught up in the sentry mode. So I've always thought the tank mode might be the time where Bastion is most vulnerable. And to your point, Bastions have to learn that and use it in the right situation.
Well, game 1 is under our belts. Game 1 of Bastion patch is under our belts, and we have seen some Bastion, but we saw some standard play that we've been seeing more or less with the multiple mobile threats coming out from both of these teams. The Pharaoh Mercy as well. We're going to Temple of Anubis here for the next map, where compLexity up 1-0 in this. They're going to try to take it again, as they've been being very strong over the last couple of days even. But what are your thoughts coming into Temple of Anubis?
Temple of Anubis is another map where you look at last and you could see Bastion in play, but let's forget about Bastion for a moment and talk about another very crucial patch change that's come in, where now it's not going to be as easy for defenders to actually hold back on second. Now when you have 5 people on the point and you've wiped out the other team, they're going to spawn less frequently. That means that the entire dynamic of assault maps where you had to flawlessly win in order to actually take might not be the case anymore. So the flow on point B here on Anubis is going to be very interesting to observe and see just where the game goes, because now, instead of most assault maps going in as 2-1, 2-2, or 3-2, those types of setups, maybe we do see a situation where you see more 4-3s or even 5-4s because teams can get in on last point easier. I'm curious to see it.
Thus far, it's been met with overwhelming positivity, but again, I want to see it in action first. Maybe it changes the map too much in different ways, but I think it is the right change, where if you win one team fight very decisively, you should probably be able to take the point, but there still is a chance for defenders to come back. And then when the dynamics change and the defenders are winning again, then the spawn times rechange. So I think it's a very smart change overall.
And this is a very selfish question because of my proclivity for playing Mei, but we had a very minor change to Mei.
Why would you admit that?
Yeah.
Why would you admit
Come
that?
on.
You understand that people are judging you right now. We're judging you right now.
I didn't say I was a Bastion Marine or Hanzo Mei. I thought that was a little bit more taboo there. But, you know, what if I'm on your team? Does that make it better? Yes, no, maybe so. Well, either way, do you think we'll see more Mei? I mean, she can be healed through her ice block. Is that really going to affect things very much?
I would guess not so much.
Yeah,
I think the times you would run Mei last patch are about the times you'll run Mei in this patch, although I do think Mei was arguably underrun a little bit at times last patch, so we'll see if teams warm up to her a little bit more. No temperature pun intended.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because, temperature pun for that. Because I agree. I thought maybe we should see more of her. Well, we're going to find out if we see her on Temple of Anubis going into Game 2 between compLexity and Team Liquid.
So it is Temple Anubis, and we do have a defensive Bastion coming out here. It's going to be Torque running it. And again, you take a look at how teams have been supporting Bastion. compLexity is favoring now, running both D.Va and a Zarya to work it out and try and prevent Torque from falling the threats. So we'll see how effective it is. I certainly think Bastion, even compared to King's Row, could have more success here at Temple Anubis because there's only so many ways you can approach this Hex.
Well, this is a 100% protect Bastion composition. Everything that you have in this comp is to protect the Bastion. Now, the one way you could deal with this is possibly send a Pharah over top and get a concussion blast to knock some of those supporting elements out. But with the D.Va there, you can't even really do that.
No, and the D.Va is very good at protecting it. I wonder if we'll see Team Liquid swap to a D.Va of their own when they see this. They do have ID on the Widowmaker here. There you go. Third time's a charm. And no, he doesn't even like what he sees. He's probably going to go and swap off the Widow. And I think now that they see the Bastion, we might see a full swap up here from Team Liquid. Because they don't even want to go in at all. They just actually back out.
Well, yeah, this is going to be a very difficult position to dislodge. ID does switch onto that aforementioned Pharah, perhaps looking to get the concussion blast. He does hit something over top, not quite the results he was looking for. But here comes the Winston trying to get in.
They're trying to get in. Torque just getting healed up all the while. I think that's a case where you have to land an offensive bio-nade to deal with that, to make your dive a little bit more effective. And Torque right now able to get away from the pressure, and certainly Team Liquid is still pressuring here. Decop gets caught out. He's not getting the heals he usually is because all the heals are going to Torque, so maybe the tank's more of a weak point when running this Bastion composition, but Team Liquid's still having to tread very lightly here, Hex.
Well, we talked about leapfrog for the Bastion, but this is leapfrog for the offense. Get him off one ledge, get him off the other ledge. Shatter takes down Bishu in the back lines there. So far, Torque has done very little, and now he finds himself in a corner. He does eventually take down AZK. Here comes the resurrection.
Well, the res does come in. This is going to give compLexity new life, and Torque, tank mode in, has the nano boost, but again, finds some trouble here getting good shots through shields, but the rest of compLexity able to move around as Team Liquid, frankly, just avoiding Torque towards the very end.
I think that's a viable strategy, that when the team does get scattered off after that initial Bastion-style defense, if you just find everyone else. Bastion's not all that great alone against other numbers of heroes, so that could be a viable strategy. We see how well it's going to work.
I just feel like Torque has been getting less and less room to work with. His ID comes over the top, picks down 2 at that barrage, ends up taking a nap, but still in a very good position as Torque finding himself outnumbered and outgunned on all sides. compLexity's still trying to bring this back, but this is looking all but inevitable. Team Liquid will be able to take this point.
AZK died a couple of times to Bastion, but I think that is part of the plan almost in some of these cases. You say AZK and Shatter have to go in. One of you is probably going to die, but as long as we get the Bastion, we're okay with that. They're mobile heroes that can rejoin the fight quickly.
The interesting thing about that, too, and how Team Liquid went in is that they weren't even running an Ana there. They just tried the surround from all sides and worked out. So even without the bio-nade, they found ways of applying pressure. And again, I'd look at the rest of compLexity here and just note that when you're supporting Bastion that much, it is easier to kill someone like Decop or Bishu.
They're not getting the support that they're used to, and it does mess up with their timings. They don't know how to operate at 200 health necessarily if you're playing Reinhardt. It's a very good point. Shutter's going to be up top here trying to get a little bit of poke in. He does have Dragon Blade at the ready. They have come off of this Bastion onto last point. Perhaps don't like the room to operate, running a 4-tank composition instead.
For Team Liquid, they're going to try and make most of the momentum coming in here. Sound Bearers should be on the way, and they're going to get hit by this Graviton. So Grego, yet to drop the beat. Self-destruct moving in, and goodbye. Well, the one upside there for Team Liquid, though, is that they didn't invest anything into that fight. They still kept the Sound Barrier, they still kept the Dragon Blade, so maybe they just made the call, just die. Everyone die. And now this makes their next attempt perhaps much stronger.
They will be able to initiate with Sound Barrier. That's going to be Grego, of course, filling in on the loose here with Sound Barrier. Shatter did keep his Dragon Blade, even though he was caught in the Sound Barrier. You're right, I think that call was made of, that's over, guys. Let's just give up the ghost. Good night, Irene. We'll reset here. Nicholas does switch over to the defensive Mei here, and we'll see if any of those changes affect her gameplay, but we always saw Mei on this last point.
For Mei, I mean, it's no surprise here. It's just to stall things out. Shadow right now looking for the opportunity to go into Dragon Blade, holding it on, going to backline Bishu, and he's being very patient with this. Same with Grego, and now that they killed Decop, now I think they're all in here. Hex Shadow into the back room, Dragon Blade out, fine shake, goes to the spawn door even, moving in and around, gonna end up with a double kill here, most likely. And what a default here on the Roadhog at the end, not Road God.
Not yet.
He's not yet there yet, no. And for Team Liquid, now we get to see the spawn changes in action. They have a dominant force here on the point. How quickly can compLexity reinforce this?
Well, and Decop also very aware of those changes, just going to use his Earth Shatter the moment he gets out there, not trying to stall out as much as possible, but this has still been all the offense's fight. They get most of the kills. The respawns do seem to be coming a little bit slower, hard to judge so far as they're getting people back on the point. Still 3. The offense definitely cleaning up at a quicker rate.
And now, look at the respawns. compLexity, they're much slower in getting back in the point. They do have a Winston that finally gets back out here, but this is perhaps a new era for assault maps where, even though the defense can still come back in, it's far less decisive than it used to be.
Well, the reason this is going on so long is that the defense has gotten kills, and in the past, had they gotten 1 or 2 of those kills, it would have effectively been over. The Blizzard disc come out. Here comes Shatter.
Shatter looking for the Fishing Dragon Blade here, getting on the Winston, needs one more slash. Winston leaps right out of there, should go down here in a moment, does fall to Grego, and I think the key here is that the offense is able to reinforce. They're not getting thrown off. The defense is taking a while to come back in, and though it's taking a while to grab this point, this is not quite as decisive as it once was for the defense after getting a few kills. But after saying that, it's Nicholas with a spree of icicles, able to freeze out Team Liquid at the very end.
I think the main point to highlight there is that this was not the same old, same old. There were so many defensive kills that would have ended that fight 30 seconds a minute ago, and it still went on for the offense because of that respawn rate. So despite how the offense was unable to take it, that's because the defense got a vast amount of kills.
Now take a look at Bishu, special delivery in through the pillar. That is a beauty if I ever saw one. Does run in the AZK at the very end, but not their down Azari. It's still going to be hard to really justify burning ults and going too heavily in here. Liquid going to take a breather and back this up a bit.
Very cute play there. Nicholas hits an icicle there. Now they're going pretty far out. They got to be careful. Nicholas does come in and takes down Shatter. They lost Decop, but it is time to get out of there with what remaining lives you have left. Should be a full-on 6v6 during the next fight. A lot of ultimates at the ready. The most important, very likely, is going to be Nicholas's Blizzard.
That's the scary part here going in for Team Liquid, is that if you roll into Blizzard and lose 2-3 people immediately, yeah, things might have been changed to be somewhat better for the offense, but that's down 2-3 people. It's still probably not going to work. So they need to perhaps bait out the Blizzard or find a way to have it not take out 2-3 people outright.
Well, Torque gets the first kill onto Grego as this duel goes on in the backline. The D.Va versus McCree. D.Va taking a lot of damage. Shatter doing a nice job. So maybe McCree is another hero we should watch out on him. Here comes the Blizzard, though, ZP.
The Blizzard does come in, and thus far, it is keeping Team Liquid off the point. They're very scattered right now, Hex, and that's just giving Nicholas a playground to work with, his own personal winter wonderland as he finds another 2, and really just ruin Team Liquid's push with that Blizzard.
Well, they get a late kill there. It's going to stagger out the next offensive push as well. But the next offensive push could be very powerful. And one of my favorite combinations to see in the game, not super common, Earth Shatter into Deadeye. They're going to have that option.
It's going to be interesting, but for Team Liquid, they're under a minute left here, so this will be perhaps their final attempt here on the point. They're going to have to get around several important compLexity ultimates as they move in. We'll see if they can do it. They're McCree powered. It's high noon. They're rolling in onto the point right now. No, the ice wall ruining Shatter's ability to get good targeting here. Has to throw away the Deadeye. Doesn't get anything early on. The rest of Team Liquid has to get on the point here. There's the Earth Shatter in from the defense, and it connects with nothing. It's a nice save by the side Mezar. Here comes the counter Graviton, and Team Liquid, they're all in here. They have won. It's 5v5 on the point. We'll see if it's enough.
Thus far, Maywalls have been the MVP of this defense early on and right there, keeping everyone alive behind that Graviton.
Well, they only need one more tick here, and they are starting to get more kills on this point. It's going to take longer for the defense to respawn here. Will this be enough? Last patch? Probably not. This patch, we'll have to see. Everyone's on the point. It's ticking right up. They almost have it. They're so close as the D.Va stall is coming in here. But look at ID. Charged up, should be able to carve through this D.Va. Self-destruct, though, going to be a bit of a problem here.
They would have had that had they not woken up the D.Va. She was slept off of the point, but they went for the kill anyway. Did not work out. Now Nicholas is able to get another kill. He's been the MVP of this defense. Shake gets 2 right there on the defense. compLexity is pulling this back.
They are playing back. Shake having a monstrous time. 3 people taking those Ana poison darts. And now Team Liquid failing to get the last point here. I'm really trying to process the last point changes here, where I feel like we will see more last point caps, but it is still relatively stringent on requirements to grab it, Hex.
It is, but let's give all credit to compLexity as there were a lot of kills coming out. Nicholas had great plays there, but there was one small mistake. They were so close to closing that out. They slept the D.Va off the point and then woke her immediately. If that diva doesn't get there, they don't buy that time, they probably close that map out.
I think that's a case where maybe they didn't realize she wasn't on the point, or they just...
Maybe she was on the point and I didn't see from my angle, so
it's
hard to say.
It was very close in any case, but there's certainly a bit unfortunate for Team Liquid. They weren't just within a tick, they were within really, what, an eighth of a tick at the very end? So that's pretty rough given how much of an importance it is to get last year on Anubis if you want to win the map. It puts them in the bind that now if they want to win, they either have to hold on first, which is not super likely given team's track record on completing first, or they have to win the tiebreaker later on in the series.
So as we continue to learn, as this patch goes on, it still seems that you have to have much stronger engages to finish, but I will note that compLexity was getting a multitude of kills, and a lot of it was Nicholas. That May play was phenomenal, from the walls to the stall, and then the icicles on top of it.
Well, to elaborate on that a little bit more, we see plenty of teams that go to a May, and the May there is more for just walls and delaying and the Blizzard. Nicholas was making May work on a damage level with her secondary fire very heavily. He was active in the kill feed, so it's not just playing May because she's supposed to be good there, it's actually being good with May.
Absolutely. We'll see what this offense is going to look like, as it appears the defense wants to run a very divey defense. Offense, we have the return of Sombra. Torque is back onto Sombra. They're going to run a lot of damage as well.
I could shed a tear here. Torque back on Sombra. His family is safe. Jack Bauer has succeeded in his mission.
Aw, you jinxed it. You totally jinxed it. Torque ran away from your comment all the way back to spawn.
Clearly, it's because I mentioned a show that has seen better days. But I don't know what to tell you here, Hex, but the Sombra dream is dead. compLexity going to be taking this a little bit more traditionally.
They're going to come in over here. They're adding a couple tanks. They do get caught out in the corner. That's why this dive comp exists, is to find the paths they want to go through and try to get some kills early on. Not necessarily working, though. They do trade out a couple.
Well, it's actually fun for compLexity. It's 2 versus 2 early on here. And even if AZK is able to roll around here, look at how low Team Liquid is. Almost all their members are dead. compLexity has a real window of opportunity. The fish are off his Shatter, running around 35 HP. Team Liquid, of course, getting healed up by the hang towards the end. compLexity not able to finish it off there, but they're going to have a moment where they'll have a numbers advantage here, Hex.
Well, Shatter did a good job of staying alive there. Now it's still presenting constant pressure. So they did have a very small window. They chose not to take advantage of it, although they do have several tanks already posted up on the high ground. They're going to wait for the rest of the team to join them.
All right, compLexity now moving in, being more aggressive, getting onto that point, coming in from multiple angles, but Decop a little bit far out, gets punished by Mezar. They're going to have to do it without Reinhardt shields here, as you see compLexity now realizing that, hey, we're a little bit outgunned, we need to back off, as AZK pushing the advantage, ends up with 3 kills before it's said and done, and AZK, again, being a real pest here towards compLexity, finding ways of getting big plays, even as the rest of Team Liquid might be struggling a little bit more.
Well, this dive defense will hold for now, and of course the chase onto kills very nice for them as they use that to charge up their ultimates. Incoming on the defense will be a barrage up. Torque is going to switch again onto this Widow. We like Widow a lot on this map, ZP, if he can find the right sightlines. And against a dive defense, he should be able to get a lot of work done.
Well, you have to think, though, that Mezar and Shatter are going to be right in and on him, and as I say that, you see Mezar pull him off his perch. While that's going on, the rest of compLexity went in, and they're losing this fight. Shatter pulls out the Dragon Blade, picks up 2. Not even sure he's done with just 2, but it's enough to stop this push right into tracks. And suddenly, Team Liquid, Hex, a minute 40 away from getting a full hold here on Anubis and evening up the series 1-1.
In theory, they should have had the ground advantage there because they sent 2 people after Widow hanging out up there, and Torque was able to distract them a little bit, but the ground advantage completely nullified by the great play of Shatter on his Genji. Of course, staying on that Genji, he's going to be in a fight with a Pharah early on.
Shatter is giving Team Liquid something they've lacked for a very long time in regards to having solid Genji play. It's very noticeable that it's made them stronger already. And now look, AZK finds Torque around his ID, boosts it up, takes Nicholas out of the air. He's earned his nap.
A supercharged nap's like taking a cup of coffee before you try to get a nap, and actually supposed to be very good for you. But right now, that is all kills for Liquid coming in. They didn't have to use much there. Getting down to it, below a minute on the clock for this last push.
One thing that I think is important here is that with the triple DPS that Team Liquid is running, it feels like AZK has a lot more room to breathe because Shatter is a real threat you have to respect. ID has been pretty decent on his fare here thus far, and it means that you're not always looking for AZK, and when you're not looking for AZK, he's been getting first kill on these pushes very reliable.
Gladi's up over top. They were completely expecting this Winston as he comes over. The sound barrier will come and keep everyone healthy. That is a couple nice kills on this entry here as Bijou and Nicholas get two.
ID rolls to the backline, finds Torque. This is still possible for Team Liquid to pull this back. They need to pull it back if they want to win here on Anubis outright. One shot onto Mercy, looking for another. ID not able to get it in time, ends up killing himself. It was very close, but Shatter has rejoined the fight. Very close to having Dragon Blade. No health remaining for him though, and he's not gonna have the time to pull it out.
This will be a completed point for compLexity as they grab first. Had to throw everything at it, but totally fine. I love the switch from Nicholas onto Asphera. Nicholas was not always known as Asphera, but over the course of this tournament has really come alive on that Pharah.
Nicholas dabbled with Pharah and had a few decent games way back in the day, and some people are big fans, but it never really appeared dominating to us. But he's definitely put more effort into his Pharah, and it's starting to hit to that tier. And look at this, Shatter takes a Widow shot early on. Now there's an opportunity for compLexity to really bust this wide open. Nicholas, barrage in over the top, finds the hang early on, gets two before killing himself on Winston's large body.
The sound design is so A+, proper on point. That was the perfect smush right there. Torque is uncontested up top. Just as I say that, Shatter comes in and contests him pretty hard.
Well, Shatter is back in on this fight, and even though it's a decent engage here by compLexity, Team Liquid is able to get out of their spawn and clean the rest of this up. Poor Decop, wondering where his team was. Did get Ana at the very end, though.
Well, 3 minutes on the clock to be able to finish out this point at the very least. Shatter's going to have his Dragon Blade up, not switching anything up on this defense, which I think is absolutely fine. Well, just as I say that, of course, ID comes off of the defensive Pharah, which I like on this point. He had Barrage. He would rather play Diva instead, very likely to make sure that Torque cannot find anything and get anything going, and also frees up Shatter to do damage on the ground.
Torque's been a threat in the back. He's been affecting sightlines and affecting how Team Liquid wants to position here. Even though he hasn't been getting the biggest amount of pickoffs early on, and oh my goodness, they're just deep diving in really hard here. Perhaps too much. I don't like how far Team Liquid is out here. We'll see if it pays off. Shatter diving in, picks up two, uses the Dragon Blade to pick that up. So it does work out in the end, but there's always a risk when you go that far out, especially if someone dies early on, but the risk for Team Liquid does pay off.
Well, you have to feed a Genji to keep him happy. A very Illidan-like performance as he throws down the "you are not prepared" spray on the ground, but I think it is because you mentioned Team Liquid hasn't had this Genji threat before. Genji is great at cleaning up those deep dives if you go in. If you have Dragon Blade ready, you do a lot of damage, you need someone to be able to use the mobility and clean up the kills, and now they have it.
Well, AZK going to the next fight can have Pulse Bomb up, and we'll see if he can just get one kill. It's not quite as bad as it was last patch in terms of losing one and losing, but if you lose one person for free, you're definitely not going to feel great about your chances going to the next push. Everyone's clumped up. Where's AZK? AZK is going to be coming in from the side, looking for the Pulse Bomb. Pulse Bomb is in, does not kill anyone outright, but Ezrar coming in with them, and Liquid just suffocating this compLexity push on the right side.
Suffocating would be the correct term as they've switched to even more tanks. ID, Zarya, Shatter went to the Diva. Oddly enough, they blind picked against it as Nicholas came in on the Reaper, unable to get the kills that he was looking for, though. They're going to stick onto this composition. A lot of tanks, a Reaper on one side, a Tracer on the other. Pretty much the compositions that we're looking at here. A little over a minute left. One good push left if Decop can get his Earth Shatter up, but they're down to it.
Not much time left here for compLexity as they go for the win. They're guaranteed the draw, but they want the win. As Nicholas right now looks to go in on the Reaper, and compLexity seeing very tentative here as they enter the side room. AZK still poking in from Liquid, and this is where compLexity has to take the shot. They're moving in from the side, but Team Liquid, they counter-engage here into this room with Mezar and Primal Rage, knocking things up and around. Soundbear comes up for compLexity, though, and they can still turn this fight, Hex.
A boosted Tracer came in there. I question if that was on purpose or not. I think they wanted one of their tanks, and that's how they've been playing. And now here comes the boosted Reaper as he goes in onto the Diva. Defense Matrix down, looking for targets, gets chip damage in. No kills so far, though.
I don't think they had it up at the time, but the boosted Reaper definitely would have been more valuable earlier in that fight. They're using after being down two. Nicholas going to drop the Death Blossom, takes down Grego, but Team Liquid just better positioning, has compLexity surrounded on all sides, and they're not able to find a good way out of that room.
Well, they may have found a good way out of this map as desperation time coming in. Torque is going to go to the Sombra, but I think he should have stayed onto that Sombra maybe early on. Regardless, not going to be able to get back to that point.
Not in the least, and there it is, Temple Anubis. New patch on Assault, but perhaps a similar result as we've seen. This is going to be a draw, and we're going to be going to our tie-breaking map.
Not the first time we've gone to a draw in the last couple of days. I believe we'll be headed to the lovely Greek Isles of Ilios.
Actually, if I may, We do
may.
have a rule change, a last-minute rule change on that.
Okay.
Okay.
And so I'll have Wojtek correct me if I'm wrong. Our
Well,
tournament
let's
guy,
give
but
Shatter
yeah,
his
he
due
will, yeah.
while we worry about this. As he's making his introduction to Team Liquid, this was the fight that we were both a little concerned about. But as I mentioned, this is something Liquid's not used to having.
No, you don't usually see Liquid come out with a Genji and actually catch a team that far off guard. And it was a good play by Shatter. And again, Liquid has never had this. They've never had a shutdown Genji player, and Shatter has been a great boon to them thus far. So not only has compLexity upgraded their roster with tanks coming in from week 1, I think it's safe to say that Shatter over Louis has been a very positive change for Liquid so far.
Yeah, so actually, we do have a change to the tiebreaker rules, and we'll break apart this map a little bit more because I have questions. But I just wanted to explain this real quick. Basically, the way that this works is we may get a tiebreaker at the end where we play a single point on Elias if the best of 5 series results in a tie. And what we experienced yesterday was multiple matches going to draws. And this is actually something that's been in the works for a little bit. We just wanted to make sure it got approved by all the right people. And it just so happens that it got approved last night. And so we are going to that new rule. So we're just going to be moving on to the next map. It's going to remain 1-0 for compLexity in the series.
I think he's implying we're not the right people. So it wasn't run by us. We didn't have to approve it.
There you go.
Yeah.
How dare you? How
Wait,
dare
we
you,
weren't
sir.
even consulted.
Oh my, they didn't consult you? Oh my goodness, I'll have to...
We were busy in our trailer getting massages, I'm sure.
Yeah, in your trailer. Yes, of course. Carbon always provides everyone with a trailer. It's like, I don't have a trailer. Anyway, well, let's talk about this last map because we did see a little bit more Bastion. Real quickly, let's talk about how did Bastion work out on Assault?
Clearly wasn't that big of an impact. You saw compLexity try and run it on the defense, and even though they put a lot of tools to support that Bastion, even though there wasn't even an offensive Ana to stop the healing, you saw that offensively, Team Liquid was able to get in, surround him from all sides, and take him out. And I think there is the hidden side effect of running a Bastion, which is that you have tank players that are used to playing very aggressively. Tank players that know I can go this far out and get healed. Well, when Bastion's been being played, a lot of times it's not even Bastion that dies first. It's the tanks that are dying first because if you're focused on the Bastion, you're not keeping your Reinhardt alive.
And every other player in those compositions is set up to only support the Bastion. And to your point, as soon as one of them goes down, the entire apparati collapses. So it is pretty rough for them overall. And also, you don't really want to be that clumped up in Overwatch. Or you saw the Winston jump in as the distraction, and then that Pulse Bomb found great purchase on King's Row.
Right now, Bastion compositions are giving me the impression of a very shoddily built Jenga tower where you just take out one piece and everything collapses. And part of it is that it probably is harder to execute for teams, and they're going to have to spend more time figuring the best ways out with it. But at least it doesn't seem like Bastion is so overpowering that you can run it no matter what and have it be effective.
Yeah, because these are pro Overwatch players, not pro Jenga players. So they're going to have to figure that out, practice a little bit more. And so we may see some adaptations in the future. And I think it's going to look a little bit different than what we've been seeing today. But the point I wanted to bring up is, yeah, you know where you need to fight when there's a Bastion on the field. The mobility of Bastion, while it has been bolstered a little bit in this last patch, there's some bullets coming out, and and you could see even a dancing around that, and then they got a few picks, took out a few of those Jenga blocks, and then, I mean, they even left Bastion alive inside, I think that was Mini there on the left side of the point.
Well, to extend and finish the Jenga metaphor, hopefully, it's something that's high risk, high reward. That if you need to hold a first point, and this is where Bastion has always excelled, if you need to hold a first or you need something that has to happen, you absolutely must win that fight, then maybe run that composition, like pulling a block out of the bottom.
There is a weird conundrum, too, when you think about it, is that in theory, the Bastion would be better on defense. The offense has to come into you. The downside, though, is that if you're on defense, you have very little ability to swap up. So you can't do something where you go, oh, we're just going to run Bastion the first 2 runs and then easily swap. Usually when you swap, people have died. And if your Bastion has died, you might be losing the fight outright. So it's interesting how that works.
Well, moving on to another topic here, the players to watch, and something that big coming into this match was actually how are the new guys doing? And I'm going to go ahead and say that I think that Decop and Bishu are playing as we've expected based on their previous performances. So their consistency is starting to solidify a little bit more. The question is, how are we feeling about Shatter coming into this match?
Looks great so far. One of the big problems with Liquid was that they're always very passive, and I think Shatter's adding that element of we can chase, we can get kills.
No doubt about it. I mean, again, we haven't seen Liquid with a great Genji basically ever, so now this is a shift in how they're playing, and I think you can make the very reasonable argument that it's freed up AZK to find more room in. If you're worried about Shatter because he's a threat, you're not always looking for AZK, and it felt like he had more room to breathe in this last match.
Yeah, he's been playing really well on Tracer as of late, and that's been a boon to their team. We did see Shatter on McCree and D.Va. It's hard to really say whether or not he had a huge impact. I mean, he played McCree for a long enough, and then D.Va had a few plays, but it is going to be curious to see how well he plays on anything but Genji, because his Genji game seems on point. Well, we're going to be going into our next map, and that is going to be Nepal. Once again, we're in game number 3, or map number 3, rather, and it is still 1-0 because of the draw, but compLexity is still leading here. So let's see what they can do on Nepal.
All right, we move into the snowy mountains of Nepal, where there's a glorious sanctum and a lot of snow. Also some snow here in Denver today, Hex, even though it makes no sense because it was warm outside at the same time. I felt like an undercooked frozen pizza.
I never felt that way. You'll have to describe it to me in more depth. Perhaps that's how you feel at one of these alleged parties in these party rooms. A lot of undercooked frozen pizza happening. Regardless, we will be moving on to Nepal. Right now, Team Liquid is all over the place, and as much as I love ID, and I would love to see the Symmetra, I feel he's going to break my heart.
I don't think we're seeing Symmetra here, Hex. I'm sorry to tell you, but it has a very low pick rate on Control.
If anything,
especially for competitive games where it might very well be 0 over the last few months. If
Quick Play has taught me anything, it's that Symmetra is totally viable on Control, and I should stop talking about it. Regardless, both teams on pretty standard compositions. Torch back on McCree, going to have his hands full with ID. That is the mini battle going on in this game. ID with his buddy in Mercy, and also Nicholas. Nicholas did a great job of being able to nullify other combinations, and he's going to have to run it a little alone. Shatter goes down very early.
Shatter not getting the most of his aggressiveness early on, and this creates opportunity for compLexity to come right back. Torque on the McCree. Lots of room for him here now, as he doesn't have to worry about getting dived, and Dahang just gets shot in the head from long range. 2 unanswered kills here by compLexity, and this is going to be a very decisive first take here on Nepal.
Decop able to take out some of that early aggression from Shatter, and it just keeps Torque at a very safe distance from everyone else. And of course, that distance doesn't matter unless you're hitting headshots, but he is pinking people very decisively. So his McCree play has taken a step up in the last few days. And of course, we've seen Nicholas able to fight combos all on his lonesome, and that resource value generally favors compLexity if he can do it.
Nicholas showing us the glorious non-violent Pharah in neutralizing Mangachu yesterday, but I don't think we're going to be seeing as much of that here today. He is coming in over the top, looking for the kill, and prioritizing the Mercy here, trying to get in onto Dahang and really getting the slip right now. But while that's going on, the rest of compLexity is doing better on the ground war. It's Torque and Bishu combining for 3 kills on the right side. And oh, that's never a great feeling when you're a Mercy and you have to win a pistol war with McCree. I'm just saying, McCree seems to know a little bit more about pistols.
Well, Mercy's pistol does a surprising amount of damage, though. I'm not sure if you've heard. Torque is going to be holding on this high ground still. Thus far, it has been all compLexity in these fights, and at a certain point, we might see some switch-ups, and here's a question we might see answered. Shatter's going to switch over to Soldier 76, but during that, Torque takes down ID in the sky.
ID could not withstand that amount of McCree fire here. 2 unanswered kills by compLexity, make it 3. Team Liquid really struggling to get a good initiation here, and they're going to be swapping things up. The Pharah Mercy combo they were running, the Mercy might stay, but the Pharah is definitely not.
Dahang was very slippery on his Mercy, and some of the changes to sensitivity of Guardian Angel and beams, things like that, may be playing into that. Dahang has always been a very slippery Mercy anyway.
Well, we do have another swap, too, of course, that we didn't note in the last fight, is that Shatter got off the Genji, now trying to make things happen at 76, did not like the matchup versus McCree, but with Grego getting picked off early, and the Deadeye coming in, this is just going from bad to worse for Team Liquid. They have failed to get anything done in this round thus far.
Welcome to the Torque show, as he has shown up absolutely huge on his McCree. They've had no good answer for it. Shatter has to wait for his team to come back up. Interesting to see what ID is going to run here on this next life, but it's too late, does not matter. That was 100% compLexity.
Now, let me ask you this. Did Team Liquid swap up too much there? They went through multiple rotations of going, okay, let's run this, let's run that. It was definitely hurting their ability to generate ults for any sort of turnabout there. It just felt like they never had a moment where, here's a window, we have 5 ultimates, we can win this fight. No, they just got stomped out, and also they weren't able to accumulate much of any power.
I agree with you in that sense, but the manner in which they died lends itself to switching. Shatter died very early on his Genji. They needed some more help and some more consistent damage. ID had very non-successful lives. I'm trying to find a nice way to say it. Some bad lives on Pharah overall.
A lot.
Died a lot.
Period.
And so I think he wanted to switch as soon as he had that second life that did absolutely nothing. So I agree that it wasn't ideal to switch like that, but nothing was ideal for Liquid in that first stage.
So we're moving to the second stage, and compLexity is still very content to run a similar setup. They're going to have Torque on the McCree once more, but Nicholas now in the Tracer, so they're not going to be trying to win the air war. Meanwhile, Team Liquid, they take this guys once more, looking for a different approach as ID tries to get back in the Torque, but they're losing the ground war here once more, Hex.
Again, just the time to kill way too long. He's not getting it enough done quickly enough. Torque eventually does fall to ID, but ID got some splash in, not hitting the direct rockets that you need to hit to have the impact to allow your team on the ground to clean up your damage. Simply not enough damage generated by ID's Pharah.
No, and now we're moving in where Team Liquid is going to try and retake, but offensively, they're just struggling to get a kill, period, and I think this is a case where ID probably needs to go in a little bit more aggressively or have better position, because he's poking with these rockets, and not even every rocket is hitting. Meanwhile, compLexity's just counter-diving into Liquid, and it's happening again. They're already down 2 players. Make it 3 as Torque does shoot ID out of the skies.
It's time to switch. It has to be time to switch. I love combo. I love Pharmacy as much as the next person, if not more. And yes, they will make some wholesale changes across the board. ID on Zarya. AZK moves over to Roadhog. Mezer is going to be on Reinhardt, so running triple tank here. Shatter will stay on Genji.
I do like this in a sense, especially if the hang goes to Ana here in just a moment, in that you can give better support to Shatter now. Now he can dash in, you can give him a shield, and you can let Shatter fly, and maybe that's going to be a way of getting in on this. He's going into the backline right now, gets the early deflect, and the Meteor ground war from Team Liquid now perhaps a little bit more successful. They get the early pickoff, and now you see Pichu running for dear life, not going to get out, and for now, this switch up much more effective.
While Electric Cowboy trying to get something done, he does eventually wait out that deflect. Torque gets Mezer really early on, looking for more kills on the point as he continues, but Shatter's gonna come back, try to get in on him.
Well, Shatter immediately takes down Torque. One swipe is all it takes. Gonna be playing the sword versus hammer war. Gets on the decop, so the swap up for Team Liquid here, definitely better. What it allowed them to do is just run right in the compLexity in a very beefy way, because now instead of running more DPS, they're running Roadhog Zarya. It's beefier. It gave more opportunity for Shadow to run around, and frankly, just worked out.
Very nice for them, and the next fight, they can go very aggressively if they want, as long as Dahang stays alive. They're running a Mercy, the other team is not. The Resurrections will be available for them. They might need it as Graviton and Pulse Bomb come online. Possibility for a combo. There's the first half.
Well, the Graviton comes in, Nicholas right there with the fall through. Pulse Bomb in, takes out Mezar, and basically causes AZK to die, but Dahang gonna undo all that with a well-timed Resurrection. Suddenly, compLexity in real trouble in trying to take this fight. Now, Shatter dying the decop, that's actually a very big deal. They're not going to have to worry about Shatter bursting through. And res or no res, they're turning this fight back in their favor as Nicholas unchecked in the backline. Here's my question though. Is Dahang going to stay on this Mercy?
Well, Dahang, he lived through it, which is a rarity for a Mercy, but you're right. Good call. He's going to switch up and come back up onto the Ana instead. See if it works out for him. The Mercy, I think, was a remnant of being part of the combination, and then you have Ultimate, and with Resurrection changes, it's not something that you switch off and throw away.
Well, this is do or die now for Team Liquid. They have to win this fight, or this round is going to slip away from him. Decop going to the backline. If he takes that run out here outright, he can throw down the Earth Shatter, but doesn't even need to. Just swings the hammer and grabs 2 kills. The fall through is there, and ID just has a little bit of oomph at the end. Last person to die is Team Liquid, smashed against the wall. compLexity finding a way through, and Team Liquid, they had better results after switching up techs, but they still weren't able to hold off compLexity for very long.
The bottom line is the Pharmacy combo did nothing for a stage and a half, and they're paying for it right there. So I really doubt we'll see it, especially on the Sanctum phase of the game. It looks like they would like to stay on their tank-heavy composition. Shatter is going to try to impress us on his Soldier 76. We all know what kind of a Genji he is. AZK may be rolling out on the Bastion. It would not be unseen for this point.
No, and teams liked running Bastion here in the past, but we're not even going to see it this time. Both teams looking like they're not going to everyone's favorite, or perhaps not favorite, robot in Omnic Crisis 2.0, but perhaps Omnic Crisis 2.0 is a little bit overblown to begin with.
Well, something we should see here, the mini match in this game will be Nicholas is going to be running the Pharah. Shatter on Soldier 76. 76, a more traditional pick on this point, but Nicholas has been running Pharah on this point a lot, has had great success firing rockets into the backline around tanks.
And this is where both teams are just going to be trading off poke, trying to win this war back and forth. And Team Liquid is getting poked down way more here, Hex. And a result of that is that Mezar is going to be first to fall. Now compLexity, they can take full control of that stair area, move it forward, 2 unanswered kills, and this should give them first control here in the Sanctum.
Without shield, very difficult to survive on the stairs as Nicholas will take to the skies, rain down some damage over top, and that is a very clean first take for Team compLexity. We'll see if Shatter stays on this. Of course, he is not known for running his Soldier 76, but it's not necessarily like he's had bad games on it so far. It's just 1 fight lost. Shake will have the only ultimate on the field.
And now here's a question for Team Liquid. How do they initiate back into this? Their initiations at times have been a little bit rough. They're not running Shatter on the Genji anymore either, so Shatter's going to be more tethered to the rest of his team, aside from moments where he can find perhaps a flanking tac visor.
Well, so far going for the slow push, and they will just jump right on the point. There is an Earth Shatter, gets a couple on the ground. The cleanup over top from Barrage. Not even Barrage.
Very clean. Decop again finds a great Earth Shatter, catches Liquid off guard, and that's it. Liquid just dies. Now 40% to 0 for compLexity, and they still have tools to really interfere with the next Team Liquid push.
I gotta say, compLexity, over the last few days, their economy has been so impressive. So much so, I'm even caught off guard. I would have used Barrage there, but that's kind of the level of Pharah I'm at. But they're gonna have it for this next fight. Here comes Grav.
Bishu coming in, looking for his Graviton, and no, he holds off. No. This is patience from him. Now he throws in the Graviton and doesn't get anything. So the patience not paying off. Probably should have thrown it in the first time. Then he would have at least had one. Now here comes Team Liquid. Shatter. Nanovisor on the way. Has him in his sights and just gets slept, but gets woken up and finds Nicholas right after. So it's still not a total waste. Makes it a double kill. And Shatter now finding a way as they move forward. A cleanup Graviton comes in from ID, and Team Liquid will retake this point. In large part, I have to say, because of a Graviton that did nothing from Bishu.
Should have listened to me. My timing was way better. He would have hit that Grav right there, but he does throw it down a little bit late. They will be trying to come back into this fight with some ultimates. Decop's got his. Nicholas still has the Barrage that I wrongly called earlier. It's been a rough match for me, ZP.
It has been a little bit rough, although I will say that Graviton, we missed the entire call where it actually had 6 invisible Sombras in it. We just didn't know.
Totally.
Either way, compLexity coming back on this point. They've gotten through that early doorway, and the Barrage comes in, takes down AZK before the sleep hits, but damage has been done. Nicholas woken up, finds a way to the back. 3 kills by compLexity, and Team Liquid now facing the prospect of getting pushed out again, where they don't have a whole lot of margin to spare here.
No, last good push for Team Liquid to come back into it and not go down 2 maps in the series to compLexity, and Decop wants to get aggressive and hold on. He has been the winner of all the Rhine games in the last couple days. Of course, Mezar might have found his match. Mezar, one of the top Rhines in the game. They're going to go all the way in here with the whole hog.
Right now, the goal of this is just to stop Liquid from even touching the point again and taking out AZK. There's a pretty good chance of that. Now they're rolling out into this outside courtyard, the domain of the enemy team, and it still works. A finishing Graviton comes in, but someone did sneak to the backline. It's Prego trying to do a little bit of wall surfing to keep the dream alive. Unfortunately, he is going to fall, and compLexity taking the Paul pretty decisively here. Liquid 1 map away from being eliminated in this series.
Eliminated in this series, and we've talked a lot about how bad it would be for Liquid to lose this match. So far winless in the Overwatch Carbon series. But this is Shake, and he did a lot of good work, although Annas have to be getting frustrated with the amount of people waking up their sleep dark targets.
There's been a lot of alarm clocks going off here in the OCS in this first set where, you're right, Anna's been getting pretty good sleeps, but everyone is already on top of that target. They can't withhold their fire, and suddenly the person gets woken up. Nicholas, of course, getting woken up and running to the back line. I'm not going to say it's poor team coordination as much as it is. I just think it happens sometimes.
It's difficult, yeah.
Well, and sometimes, I mean, if you're throwing your sleep dart into the middle of things, maybe you're just looking for a few second delay, because that is a marginal advantage that could actually net you some results, especially mid-ultimate or with some of these key heroes that are happening in the middle of fights. It might just be what you need. But here we are, compLexity. They are looking very strong coming in. And I just want to highlight, coming into Nepal, Torque, Nicholas, and I would say even Bishu is like an honorary damage dealer because he seems to be playing Zarya very aggressively, finding himself in the kill feed a lot. But what do we think? We talked about the new guy on the other side of Shatter. What about Bishu? How are we seeing his play evolve here?
I mean, if you look at yesterday and now look here, it's pretty clearly hit or miss. I think the good part about Bishu is that he doesn't get himself picked out very often, which can be a concern with tanks. So you know he's going to live to the end of the fight most of the time. It seems like his supporting shields are usually on point, which you would somewhat expect given his gaming background. Whether or not he goes off in a fight, it's not anywhere near as consistent as Zarya, like, say, Spree. And even sometimes with his ultimates, they hit or miss, as evidence in that last round where he either hit nothing or 6 Sombras. The world may never know.
But speaking of consistent, I will go back to the point that both the DPS for compLexity have played the most consistently I've seen them play in a very long time. Even going back to last evening, I can't remember a bad stage or a call-outable bad stage or bad map that either of them had. Nicholas's Pharah has been very good, and Torque was the one that I thought had to make the biggest step up as far as consistency, has played well across the board on all of his heroes.
If we're talking about consistency, let's talk about ID. If Nicholas and Torque have been very consistent, ID on Pharah, and then in general, how are we seeing his performance?
Well, ID's Pharah right now is clearly below some of the other top Pharahs in the game. You could look at a Mangachu when he runs Pharah. You could look at some of the Pharah play we've seen from teams like Rogue or LG, and frankly, it's been below par. I think part of it is that his poking rockets haven't been anywhere near as accurate as they need to be, but more than anything else, I think he's just not finding the positioning that some of the other Pharahs did, where we look at the Pharah and go, oh, he's just magically above 3 people and gets 1 kill here with 2 rockets, gets another fall through. We haven't been seeing that from ID, and on some level, it's team coordination, but on the other hand, you have to throw a little bit of shade his way because I can't really remember the last time I saw ID really take over a game with Pharah.
Beyond that, when ID runs Pharah, they generally run to hang on Mercy, too. So you're taking one of the best players on your team off of his best heroes. He's a great Ana, the top-tier Zenyatta in my mind, and not that he's a bad Mercy, but the impact he can have on the game is much lessened when they're running ID on Pharah.
And going back to positioning, when you got that Pharah Mercy combo, you need to be a little bit more aggressive. You're using more resources. And so, yeah, he had a few good poke rockets, but you're not poking with rockets if you're running the Pharah Mercy. You need to be getting kills because you're utilizing multiple resources for that, and they just weren't making it
You've
happen.
got a healer in your back pocket. Jump in.
Right, and honestly, it goes back to some of the pre-match analysis where I thought, maybe we won't see ID on Pharah, we'll see him more on off-tanks, because I truly believe ID plays a pretty good off-tank. That's where he's had his most success, whether it be on Zarya, doing things like Winston. That's where his game sense really shines. Realistically, we've seen a lot of ID over 6 months. We don't see him take over games as a DPS, which is why Shatter is a good pickup, because you let Shatter take over games as your projectile DPS.
Well, and immediately, as soon as he swapped to Zarya, they actually took the point, I think, for the first time in that map. But another theme that I want to talk about with Team Liquid, I just feel like they swapped to that Zarya too late. They lost the first point. They had already lost a lot on the second point by the time they switched to it. And then they went into Sanctum, and this has been a point that they have struggled on, specifically that stairs fight. And it's like, you know, all over again, we're seeing this consistent Liquid play, losing that first fight, and then that was it. That was 3-0.
It's difficult to swap off of Pharah when you're on it and you know that you're a world-class FPS player. It's just difficult. You know that you think that the next life is going to be the life where you put it together. So I understand it from a mental aspect, but you're absolutely right. They swapped off it too late. It cost them that map.
Well, Team Liquid, their backs are against the wall, and their next map selection is going to be Watch Point Gibraltar. And we're going to see if they can pull it back as compLexity. They are up 2-0 in the series. And keep in mind, so the way that this will work is Team Liquid, well, they have to win the next 2 maps, and that'll actually be all of the 5 maps. So that's when we would go to a tiebreaker, but they have to be perfect from here on out.
Well, thank you for that, Gil. We are moving in on the Watch Point Gibraltar. Of course, this map is Team Liquid's choice, and it shouldn't come as any surprise. Liquid historically has had a lot of trouble on Dorado in finishing out maps, in getting through to even the 3rd stage. So, Hex, moving in, knowing that what we know about AZK and how he likes playing Gibraltar, does this surprise you?
Not at all. What I am a little bit surprised by is the support action we've got going on for Team Liquid. We've got Grego onto Zenyatta. Dehang will be playing the Ana, so no Lucio, which is a little bit surprising. An aggressive defense here, but it is going to allow them to support both flankers. ID, of course, can self-support.
All right, and meanwhile, compLexity, they were showing Bastion, but that was only the deal with what could have been a more rogue-like, in-your-face defense. Instead, they're going to move Nicholas to 76 and go at this a little bit more traditionally.
Well, the Discord is on Zarya. They're able to clean up that kill, which is nice, going pretty deep in his Shatter to make sure that they get that elimination. That is one down for the offense already. High ground is being dominated so far by the Team Liquid defense. Winston's going to jump down, get a little bit of pressure on, but I think really their go button will be Shatter. When Shatter sees an opportunity, just listen to him. He'll be the initiator on this very aggressive defense.
And we know Shatter can be explosive. Anyone who has watched his stream can say that, and even though he's had dabbles in competition before, he's been playing pretty well tonight for Team Liquid. Now, compLexity, they're in the server room right now, taking it a little bit slow, but AZK off the flank finds Decomp, no pressure on him whatsoever, and now the server room is evolving into a little bit of chaos. Team Liquid, though, has to be careful. They lose Shatter early on, which means maybe they can't deep dive into it right now.
They lose him early on, which is going to mean that the Discord targets are not going to die as quickly. They will go up that high ground rotation up top. A sleep dart will take down one of them, but no kills coming in as they try to take advantage of this.
I gotta say, I really don't like how Liquid is playing this right now. They're playing a mobile defense, but they're not using it to engage compLexity in good areas. They ran into the server room, which is the last place you want to fight them. And even though perhaps they bring this back, it's been very messy compared to what we saw from Rogue when they ran a similar defense. I don't think they're engaging at the right areas right now.
Well, they've given up the high ground in exchange for the opposing high ground. A boosted Zarya is going to come in and ruin ID's day, as that is a couple of kills. 4 kills now for compLexity as they roll in. This first push is over despite what Shatter thinks.
Shatter was trying for a little bit heroics there towards the end, but one Genji versus the world usually going to win. And oh no, not like this. Grego going to be eaten for lunch right now. There's nothing he can do. He spawned there. The gates were open. Had no easy way out, and he gets taken out. And that's going to weaken this Team Liquid defense for a bit here, even though they have 5 ultimates at the ready.
Gibraltar, the worst offender when it comes to splitting spawns. You see it so often up here, and they even staggered him even longer. Bishu on the ground will very likely not get cleaned up as he has his shield up. He's got 100% charge now, so they're going to be pushing in. This compLexity train has not stopped.
And this is bad for Team Liquid. Team Liquid never even got to get to the best defensive area. Now here comes Shatter. Gonna try and pull this back. Nano Blade into the backline. Sound Barrier ruining his day, and an Earth Shadow will really ruin his day as he gets thrown right to the ground, immediately taken out. It's Decomp saving compLexity from what could have been a bigger Dragon Blade. Now, the rest of Team Liquid try and look for something. AZK going in and around on Tracer. Picks up 2, trying to be the X Factor, but Whole Hog just covering way too much space for him to move around in as the payload continues to move forward.
He was able to get 3 kills, but there's only so much a single Tracer can do. Now they're going to be throwing down some damage on the top, but it's going to be Liquid trying to come back in. That is the new Roadhog right-click. Goodbye, ID.
ID just getting sniped right out. That was the scrap gun ball right in his face. 2 unanswered kills here. And compLexity making it look easy. Team Liquid not really able to come back in onto this point convincingly. See Grego trying to just stall people out, saying, chase me, go away from the point. And even though ID comes back in and picks up 1, not nearly enough for Team Liquid to successfully stall this out.
More split spawns come in as Shatter has to go off the edge, as does Mezzer. They're just looking to set up anywhere here. It's time for Team Liquid to give up as much ground as they need to just so they can fight as 6. They haven't fought as 6 since, well, the very first fight on first point.
Well, we do have a swap up here. ID was on Soldier most of the time. Now he's going to Zarya. Shatter getting off the defensive Genji, going to 76. So they're running a double hit scan defense here, backed up by Mezar and ID on the tanks. It's a standard 2-2-2. We'll see if it works out a little bit better, but compLexity has been dominating thus far.
They have. They're running 3 tanks down here of their own, so it's going to be very difficult to get the amount of damage on them to take them down. Torque takes down ID as the first pick. 5v6 now as the defense trying to restabilize.
They're trying right now, and Shatter gonna get the nano booster over the top. Doesn't have a tech visor to go with it, so this is just standard Soldier, but Shatter saying, look, I can aim at people anyways. Find Shake early on. Bishu being really aggressive here. Not sure about that. He's surrounded by enemies on all sides, but he finds the hang. Is able to chase down his prey, so suddenly Shadow over the top suddenly looking a lot less effective.
Both supports down for the defense means no healing. Nicholas going to take advantage of that as Shatter goes down very late. There could be a Graviton here to close it out, but only 2 targets. I think he's going to get a little greedy with it. Over the top, grabs 3.
Graviton comes in, and oh no, the cleaving combo. That's just going to be a Whole Hog taking down everyone stuck in that Graviton. compLexity smothering Team Liquid right now on this last point. Shatter tries to bring it back, ends up taking Zarya's rifle butt to the face instead. That is very rough for Team Liquid because not only have they lost here on Gibraltar, but they didn't put up a fight.
That was their map. You have to have a plan to reestablish if that's your map. You can't not have a plan to maybe hold it second here if this happens, maybe hold it third here if this happens. It just seemed like chaos after they'd lost the first point.
For me, you take a look at their defense, which is very similar to Rogue's defense that they ran on Gibraltar. There was a fundamental misunderstanding in how Team Liquid is playing that. When Rogue played that defense, they got in the enemy's face much earlier, and they really chose to choke off the offense whenever they weren't in a room-type environment. Instead, where does Team Liquid engage? When compLexity is in the room. That's not where you want to engage with a more mobile defense. It does not work. They lose Shatter immediately and leave open the possibility for compLexity to just pile on kill after kill, and you just can't run that defense in that way. It didn't work.
Not at all. Team Liquid going to be on the attack this time, and they've got their work cut out for them. They need to, at the very least, finish this map if they want to stay alive in this series. Of course, so far winless in the Overwatch Carbon series as a whole, despite making roster changes here and there, and perhaps that's part of it. They haven't had a cohesive roster for a while. Shatter's looked good on his Genji, but it's not enough.
It's worth knowing, too, that this is also a must-win for compLexity as much as it is for Team Liquid, where Team Liquid has had a rough time in the OCS here. This is a team you want to beat to make sure you don't have to look back and go, wow, we missed the playoffs because we didn't beat Team Liquid earlier on. Meanwhile, for Team Liquid, they're struggling for their first win. Once you go down 0-3, the odds of going off on a tear and just beating everyone significantly lessens.
Well, running a very standard defense is compLexity as they will set up Torque on the high ground. It's where Soldier 76 has made his name. Bishu will be on the Winston on defense. Decop, Reinhardt's. Nicholas going to play Tracer, so a very standard 2-2-2 coming out here for the compLexity defense. They're going to run this on offense. AZK out of spawn as the Bastion, looking for angles. So far finding nothing because of this very passive defense. Maybe catching the cart when it rolls under him. Be interesting to see what AZK does here.
Well, AZK clearly looking to catch compLexity a bit off guard. And compLexity's not running a defensive diva here, so there is going to be some opportunities. And with Shatter taking down Torque early on, compLexity actually in a world of hurt. You need good numbers to actually dive on a Bastion effectively. Of course, as I say that, AZK was left alone. There was no one supporting him. He just dies to Nicholas.
An inexcusable death right there. If you're going to run a Bastion, give him the support that he needs to stay alive. He found himself all alone. They're going to have to pull back and very likely wait for AZK to rejoin this fight.
I don't understand why AZK is solo flanking on Bastion there, out of line of sight of Dehang. It doesn't make much sense. That was a kill that they gave up that they didn't need to give up. Just run through the front after Shatter gets that early kill.
Absolutely senseless, unforced error as they will get a lot of damage onto the diving Winston. They've taken full control of the server room right now. They've got a boosted Diva over there who gets, boosted Reiner gets slept on the ground, but still making the most of it.
Well, right now, Team Liquid, errors or not, they are finding a way through this compLexity defense, which has struggled to really find a way in. And Mezar, moving forward, finds Joe Meister early on. So aggressive Reinhardt play paying off here, well supported by Dehang, and Shatter and AZK being the real workhorses behind here. AZK now on the Tracer for the last part of that fight.
Some nice Helix rockets there towards the end from Shatter is going to get a couple kills. Really nice soldier work from Shatter here, coming alive, proving he is not just a Genji specialist. A lot of nice tracking. More importantly, I think the highest level of soldiers are always going to hit their Helix rockets, always going to finish kills.
Liquid is clearly doing better in a 2-2-2 setup. There's no disputing at this point. ID is a much better player on off tanks, and on the Diva right now, he has been creating opportunities even when things went bad, like losing Bastion in the beginning. I think this is a much healthier team setup here for Team Liquid.
And this is where you want to be on the offense at the top there. You have to be careful, though. They only left a Lucio down there, so that is Shatter coming in to play Secret Service. There is a tactical visor going off up top there as Torque tries to bring his team back defensively.
Well, there's the Earthshaker coming in from compLexity. Decop again, finding two in range of his hammer. We'll see if it's enough. Takes Diva for a ride, but AZK still an X-Factor here with Shatter. They're both moving around, laying down all sorts of hit scan pressure. Shatter might have died, but AZK still up and around. Picks up a third kill here. He's single-handedly keeping Team Liquid in this fight.
He absolutely is. Nicholas gets a bomb on it hang eventually as they try to equalize. Mezar's going to be getting back in here.
AZK even gets on the Joe Meister. Almost every kill coming in from Team Liquid over the last 30 seconds has been AZK, and that's why this payload is still moving and why compLexity has not solidified their defense.
They will have another chance at it here as they do try to get back in. They have a Reinhardt on the card. They have to be worried. Mezzer is loaded up with that Earthshatter, just looking for it. Soundbarrier is going to come off. Mezzer trying to find his way around the cart, looking for a flank. He gets the boost.
He gets the nano boost. Now he's moving in. Earthshatter at the ready, waiting for the moment to just drop the hammer. Drops it, and I think just alted some ground there. Not quite what you're looking for in a shatter, and yet it's still working out. The rest of the fight going out for Team Liquid. AZK, a terror in the back once more. And this should still be Team Liquid's fight.
You made a mention of how ID excels more at those off tanks, and he has. His Diva play, not necessarily showing up huge in the kill feed, but supporting AZK even on some of those late kills, making sure he can live inside the defense matrix. They're going to try to pressure down Decop here. Get behind him. Pulse Bomb goes off. Not quite connecting there, but still a lot of free push coming in for Team Liquid.
Well, I'm just going to note that compLexity was able to finish out this map very quickly, and yet Team Liquid could potentially beat that time if they win the next fight. That's not necessarily likely, but the point is Team Liquid has flown through this map, and compLexity's defense has really struggled to stabilize. It's been rather sloppy, in fact.
They've been really quiet. Two tanks are going to dive in there. Torque takes down the problem in AZK very early in this fight, though. Shake is going to take down his counterpart into Hang as we go forward. This will be a stabilizing defense.
They're going to get back on this. We have Bishu now on the Diva, where Bishu has proven he can play a good Diva in these situations, and why not in a case where you're dealing with this double hit scan offense? I do like the swap from Bishu here onto the Diva that just give a little bit more room to the compLexity back.
It at least pressured them down when they were trying to hold high ground, and that's what allowed Torque to get in there. They were focusing down on Bishu, and he got very low, but Torque was able to come in, take down AZK, who has been putting this team on his shoulders, and now they're going to be able to hold at this bend, one of the better places on defense to hold in Gibraltar. There comes a self-destruct over the top.
ID in over the top, self-destruct, hits Paydirt, Decop obliterated by that early opening. Now there's no shields aside from Diva. They'll deal with this double hit scan, and there's a tactical visor on deck here for Shatter 2K. He's going to take the high ground, Hex. This could be game-winning for Team Liquid.
Great patience and trying to take the high ground, waiting for his Diva to get up there so that he can just go untouched up there. There is an Earthshatter on the ground. A whole hawk coming up from the defense might bring things back. It has been mostly Liquid here as Shatter continues to pepper down damage.
Well, counter Soundbarrier coming out a little bit late, perhaps. Team Liquid has bled, but they have not been thrown off the point here just yet. They're starting to turn this back in their favor. 2.5 minutes left, Hex, and compLexity looking to be in a bit of trouble. They are still on the point, still bring it back, and yet Shatter, no one's on him as he supports Team Liquid from the back.
Well, they are getting a few kills. Yeah.
ID and AZK just fall. That's probably going to force Liquid back a bit here.
They had 3 kills in about the last 15 seconds, mostly from their support players busting out the DPS when they had to. It was Shake and Joe Meister both got a kills. Of course, Joe Meister coming off one of the best Lucio series we've ever seen, single-handedly perhaps winning maps for compLexity last night. 2 minutes left, ZP. They will have 2, at the very least, good pushes incoming, but they have to find a way to get them off the high ground.
Well, a bigger threat here, too, is going to be how do you deal with Nicholas? Well, throwing a Diva in his face is a pretty good way. ID going to dislodge him from the high ground, can make his next attack visor a bit less effective, but Mezar gets hooked in by Torque. That's actually pretty difficult. You need the Reinhardt to really help you get through here, and this is going to kill this push for Team Liquid.
Nicholas going to rotate around up top. That's where he wants to be. And they were dislodged from up top, but it didn't slow down Nicholas a whole lot. I love putting the Diva over there across from him too, if nothing else, just to scout and deny the opposing high ground. That's where Bishu is going to be set up. Getting down to it for Liquid. Minute 20 left. They're going to be pushing into some decent ults. They've got a few of their own, but not an advantage.
Here's the problem is that we might have Nano Visor v Nano Visor, but Nicholas has much better positioning on it right now. They're going to have to time their Nano Visor with Nicholas being in ID's face effectively. ID needs to neutralize him, and then Shatter has to look for an opening. If they don't do this right from where they're positioned, this push will fail outright. But here we go. Next fight is underway. The self-destruct comes in from Bishu. Oh, what a well-placed self-destruct. Takes down to Hang, and now Sunly without healing. I don't know if they could take this.
Well, they had simply scouted the angle that they wanted to come in. There comes the tactical visor from the side of Liquid. Nicholas goes down.
Nicholas goes down. The self-destruct from ID. It's Paydirt. It's a wonderful self-destruct. And despite not having their Ana, Team Liquid keeping some hope alive here. Would have been much better if the Hang was still in this. Here come the respawns in from compLexity. But a nano-boosted Diva in the spawn door. They're making a good amount of room. The payload still moving forward. 3 members on it. compLexity, can they get back in? Here comes the defensive sound barrier. They're making their last attempt.
They're going to try to deal with Nicholas here as he's been the primary damage dealer, peppering on the card. Shatter not quite finishing him off quick enough, but he is still on him. Still not dead. Decop hits an Earth Shatter, who's going to de-mech the D.Va as this fight continues.
This fight is still going on, but there's a whole hog coming out from Torque at the very end. Team Liquid starting to bleed out players here. They're on the cart still. They still have to make the most of it, but Mezar going down and Torque on an absolute rampage. This is getting less likely. Shattered's Tracer not going to be the miracles that Team Liquid needs, and this is going to stop right here on last. compLexity defeating Team Liquid 3-0 here in the Overwatch Carbon Series.
Not an entirely surprising result, but a little bit disappointing because Liquid looked better. They looked much more confident on their offense, especially on Gibraltar 2. Shatter, a good addition, perhaps added a week too late.
I would tend to agree. I think you look back at week 1 of the OCS, maybe Liquid can have a better result than 0-2 if they have Shatter, because that is a silver lining here. Team Liquid might have lost 3-0, but they did draw out one map, which is worth noting. The draw is just kind of silent as we mentioned that, but it's also how they lost. Team Liquid looked far better with Shatter. Were they perfect? No. I mean, you look at their Gibraltar defense, it was very questionable. But it's clearly a step up over when they were playing with Louis just last week, and something that they perhaps can build upon.
And it seems like he really does excel on Genji. That was when they found the most success. I think on King's Row they had a lot of successful fights. Obviously lost that map, but then they just kind of, where they were swapping around a lot. ID was on a couple different heroes. Finally decided to just go into that off-tank role, and they seem to have more success with that. But it just seems like they're still shuffling things around a bit. Maybe haven't found their identity and what they can really do.
Well, you can objectively look at the comps they're running where they had success. They very clearly had the most success with 2-2-2 comps where ID was on off-tank. I've said this many times. I think ID is a very good off-tank. I don't think he's very good at projectile DPS relative to where people have brought it on here. So for Team Liquid, they should play to their strengths. Their offense on Gibraltar there, that's something you build upon and make better as time goes on.
Well, the asterisk as well is that Rafa's not here, and being the shot caller for this was perhaps why they struggled so much, even on their own map picks. The defense especially didn't look like they knew where they wanted to hold when they started losing fights. And then the offense, that very last push that was rotating around going through top, I rarely see teams do that. The self-destruct that came there and took down to Hang, I feel like some of the shot calling was questionable, and obviously when you're missing your main caller, that's going to be an issue.
I will give Hang a bit of a pass there. I think that was just a really well-placed self-destruct and kind of a read almost from Bishu. Maybe there's many situations where it gets nothing, but I think they're going up here and then landing the D.Va mech from long range onto that part where it has line of sight into the hallway. I think that's just a great play from Bishu.
Well, it was a very telegraphed rotation, though, and it took them about 10 seconds to rotate up there. That's why I was wondering what they're even going to do to defend it, though that self-destruct was very well placed in the doorway. The rotation generally just slow there.
Well, I think AZK had a great performance once again on Tracer, really feeling comfortable in that pick. And then they just need to find a little bit more cohesion, find something that they can cling to, because they were grasping at straws throughout a lot of this series.
I've been critical of AZK in the past where he did have months where he fell off. I think in the OCS here so far, AZK has had a bit of a resurgence. Even though Team Liquid hasn't been winning these games, when you look at them overall, you can look at AZK and go, he's having good games. He's doing well within the context of everything else that's going on. And I do think he's improved quite a bit since the last time we saw Team Liquid, going back to say something like MLG Vegas.
That has been the tragic part about Team Liquid for all their fans, is that at points in times, every single one of their players has looked like a very good player, but they've never looked like very good players at the exact same time. So you look at all their individual performances and say, they have all the pieces, will they ever put it together?
Well, we're going to see if they can put it together. I believe they play again tomorrow. I'll have to look at the schedule again, as I'm really focused now on this game and then the next game. Before we move on to the next game and a break, compLexity, they just seemed like every single member was contributing. There were no real major weak spots. Even Shake got play of the game, and this is definitely a much stronger roster than last week.
Well, I mean, one thing you have to look at here is, I'm going to focus a bit on Decop, where you notice that Decop was winning fights, just not every time, but you can expect that on any given map. From what we've seen, that Decop will take 2, even 3 fights with a well-placed Earth Shatter. When you're getting that level of contribution from your Reinhardt, it's excellent. And of course, see a little bit of that going on here on the replay, where Decop just monstrous game overall.
No,
He might be that magic mix between JKW and Winghaven. JKW, a little more passive on his Reinhardt. Winghaven, a very aggressive Reinhardt who can win games for you, but Decop is playing passively when they want him to, and then actually having game-winning plays by himself as well.
both he and Bishu actually with positioning and the balancing, the aggression, and then just knowing sometimes you just got to do your role as a tank. Definitely feeling very much a part of this complexity roster. Now, we are going to go to a short break. More Overwatch is yet to come, though, as we will be watching Hammers face off against Immortals after the break.
Great for them if they move in. There's a ground top lane issue. Nicholas in over the top, and it was complexity. Being a little bit slow, but reinforced. They do have a tough time dealing with Bastion. He can creep up, but he's going to Primal Ridge go in.
Although Annas have to be getting frustrated with the amount of people waking up their sleep dog curtains. There's been a lot of alarm around into Barrage. Maybe that same combo comes out here.
Well, there's a ground top for Bishu, and Nicholas is right there on time. So Grego, he has to drop the beat. Self-destruct moving in, and good. Nicholas, Barrage in over the top.